Chapter 3201. Although Levi did not participate in the frontal battlefield, no one complained. Levi's mission was the most dangerous. If the will of the Abyss returned home, they would have to face the Supreme Will directly. Ordinary Supreme beings lacked that kind of courage. After logging off, Levi continued to explore the 659th floor of the Abyss. Time flew and 10 years passed. The Shadow Legion and the spirit of bloody battle finally swept the world. The mighty army returned to Levi, and the figure of a bloody swordsman emerged in the sea of blood. Its momentum had grown stronger. It remained silent and reached out its hand to retrieve a stream of water vapor that was as black as ink. Levi took it and probed his mental power into it. In a trance, he sensed the gurgling of streams and the flow of mountain springs. This is the heart of the spring. It was the original relic of the 4 major water systems mentioned by Emperor Wanchuan and Empress Wanchuan. Elena had already collected all 3, and was in the final stage of becoming a legend. What a pity, I found it too late. I can only wait until she reaches legendary status before refining it. The heart of the spring was obtained by the spirit of bloody battle in a valley filled with strong demonic energy. There was an extremely hidden ancient relic there, which was an unexpected surprise. Let us go to the 660th floor. 6,954 dimensional stars were shining behind Levi. His 6 breathing techniques were only 1 step away from their limit. Break. A simple punch broke through the barrier. The might of the Supreme Fist remained undiminished, rushing into the boundless distance. The aroma of milk hit him in the face. Levi appeared on a milky white ocean. The ocean of joyful waters. The succubus never lied to me. When Levi wanted to break through, he needed to make the succubus potion. It took a lot of effort and many twists and turns to get this water of joy. The resources here were completely inexhaustible. Unfortunately, only fresh water of joy could be used to make medicine. This was just normal breast milk. However, Levi still found a container to put it away. This was just in case. It was not that he had any special quirks. Now, the succubus queen led her legions into battle on the astral plane. They said they were fighting, but in fact they were just paddling. It may not have dared to rebel in front of the will of the Abyss. Therefore, it had not announced its allegiance to Nora until now. But it did not matter anymore. The trend was set. In the blink of an eye, it was the 5,140th year of the Nora calendar. Sauron continent. Vast water vapor filled the air all around, and many water phenomena, such as oceans, lakes, and rivers appeared between heaven and earth. Elena, dressed in a blue dress, looked like a water goddess. Powerful figures such as the Frost Witch stood around to protect her. Being less than 6,000 years old, Elena was promoted to a legendary level while practicing 3 paths at the same time. Her fate is truly enviable, said a wizard. Yeah, having too much talent is also a problem. Miss Elena should be the most powerful person with the most part-time jobs in the world, right? She is a wizard, knight, airbender, and pharmacist. No, it is said that the Holy Ape Knight among the 18 Riders of the Twilight is the one with the most paths. Oh. The Holy Ape Knight has 4 different extraordinary paths, including Wizard, Airbender, and Chaos Sorcerer. In terms of quantity, no one can compare to him, but the quality is average. I remember now. Some time ago, this person became the latest person in the history of the wizarding world to be promoted to the 7th ring wizard at the age of over 5,500. This broke the previous record of the latest promotion by an elven witch, and it also shocked many people at the time. Agreed. His Chaos Warlock path is only at level 6. Compared to his Knight and Airbender paths, which are already at level 9, it can only be said to be a joke. Do not say anything. If he lives long enough, he might really become a level 9 expert in 4 categories, unprecedented and unrivaled. As for level 10, that is not something that can be achieved simply by living long enough. While everyone was chatting about Emperor Mew, Elena had already refined the magical object. A blue nameless flower appeared in her palm. The flower had 4 petals, which contained 4 images of rivers, lakes, sea, and sea beasts, which indicated the direction of her future legendary career. Legendary item, the flower of the water god. Elena took the rare item and refined it, and her mental strength began to surge. She looked at the legendary wizards who were protecting her and said, "Thank you very much." The Frost Witch said, "We will wait for your return." Elena nodded and looked at the projection appearing behind her. He was wearing black armor and had his chest open. Elena threw herself into his arms and hugged the non-existent shadow. She said, "Wait for me to come back." Levi said, "Go ahead. There is no legendary catastrophe that is 100% successful." But he believed in Elena. Elena stepped onto the water wave bridge and disappeared. Levi also slowly dissipated and continued to fight in the abyss. He was already on the 662nd floor and could leave soon. After a month of anxious waiting, a tall and unpredictable shadow of a blue-robed goddess descended upon Nora. She rode on the Tianshui manta ray, which was 100 miles in diameter, and her momentum soared into the sky. So this is the legend. She opened her arms and embraced the whole world. The seawater within a radius of 80,000 miles rose up and surrendered to Elena. The rivers and lakes of the Sauron continent also became agitated, with waves rising. Sea beasts roared and seabirds cried loudly. They were welcoming the arrival of the water god on Earth. The Frost Witch's eyes moved slightly. She is so strong right after entering legend. I feel like I am not far away from becoming a senior 10-ring master. After the legend, Elena's temperament was different from before. She used to be heroic and dashing, but now she was more graceful like water. Many people came to congratulate the First Lady. Elena did not hold the legendary ceremony because she was worried about the impact on the war. She returned to the ancient Banyan wonderland to consolidate her realm. Mana was still consuming the power of the sacred tree and steadily advancing towards level 10. Congratulations, Elena. As a sacred tree, she really envied the speed of human growth. She had consumed so many resources of Levi and monopolized the spoils of the Golden Will, but she was not yet at level 10. She felt a little embarrassed. Elena said, Mana, you are almost there too. Well, it is almost done. Seeing that you are all busy with the war against the sky, I cannot help much. I just hate that I am a tree, Mana said with a little grievance. Elena comforted her. You support the ancient Banyan wonderland and nurture so many extraordinary creatures and rare plants. Because of your resources, countless powerful people have been born. This is also work. Chapter 3202. Without you, Levi wouldn't be where he is today. Mana felt better and smiled. Thanks. 10 years later, Elena refined the water-calling boots. With a thought, she stepped into the dimension of 10,000 waters, transformed into boundless water, and traveled through the void. She reached 1,000,000 miles in a moment. What a wonderful treasure. But she still preferred the black gauze dress that Levi gave her. This 9th-level rare treasure had now transformed into a supreme treasure. With the two great treasures in hand, even an average god would not be her match. After she was ready, she headed to the astral plane and plunged into the vigorous war against the heavens. Elena was the goddess of the Sea of Flowers. Her legendary profession was the Lord of all waters. Her legendary demiplane was the Land of Tins. Her legendary witch title was the Ancestral Tree of the Sea of Flowers. Her legendary magical weapon was the Tower of the Flower Goddess. Her legendary honorific was the goddess who controls all waters and the god of spring who makes all flowers bloom. Time passed slowly. It was the year 5200 in the Nora calendar. In the star realm, within the 1,000 hills and nations, the divine realm of the earth, the Mother of Earth had just finished a fierce battle. A queen of insects had led her army and almost reached the kingdom of God. In the end, she ordered 4 subordinate gods to burn their lives and used the ritual of God to barely kill the queen of insects. Looking back, the gods of the star realm had withered. There was not even 1/3 of their heyday left. The Virgin Mary decided to abandon the astral world and find a safe place to survive the catastrophe. Suddenly, the Virgin Mary felt something. She looked at the 3 figures that broke through the sea of ruins with a look of despair. The 3 heroes of Gondor were there. These 3 were elusive and had hunted down 5 powerful gods in the past 700 years, including the god of the sea, the Lady of the Lake, the Amethyst Saint, and the Lord of Blood and Fire, with remarkable achievements. The only mistake was the hunting of the Lord of 10,000 gold 100 years ago. Because of the intrusion of the Black Star Queen, whose strength surpassed that of the 4 emperors, the 3 heroes had to evacuate early. However, Victor, one of the 3 heroes, snatched back the godhood of the Lord of 10,000 gold right under the nose of the Black Star Bug, and was hunted down for a long time. In the end, it was the Dusk Monarch who fought the Black Star Bug and stopped it. After several years of fighting, neither of them could do anything to the other, so they retreated. The Lord of 10,000 gold was stronger than himself, yet even he was no match for the 3 heroes. The Virgin Mary knew that she could not survive this disaster today. After refining the miraculous object made from the 10,000 gold godhead, Victor had already stepped into the senior realm of the 10 rings. The number of his golden swords was approaching 300, and their power had skyrocketed. Ace had refined the Lord of Blood and Fire, and stepped into the senior level of the 10 rings. The 3 heroes of Gondor all had the combat power of top-level warriors. When they worked together, they were invincible. Now, even if they encountered a Black Star Worm, they could still defeat it. The Virgin Mary burned her divine power, and made one last effort. She lamented that if they had listened to her advice, today would have another ending. She had long wanted to destroy Nora, but unfortunately those guys were too afraid of death, and had too many concerns. They never thought that Nora could develop to such an extent in just a few thousand years. It was too late to regret everything. The Big Dipper, the ancient god of chaos, and the Eastern Dipper dragon appeared in the sky. Gandalf slapped out his giant palm, which fell down with a loud bang. The god-slaying sword formation descended, filled with billions of sword energies. The offensive of ice and fire was unstoppable. Even the Virgin Mary in her prime was no match for the 3 heroes. Now she was just an ordinary powerful god. Under the full-scale attack of the 3 heroes of Gondor, she lasted only a month before being killed, and her divine fire was extinguished. When the Heavenly Father arrived with the remaining 3 subordinate gods, it was too late. He himself was not in good condition. After being entangled by the Mayfly Queen for hundreds of years, his subordinate gods had fallen one after another, leaving only Lady Dawn and the 2 gods of light. He could no longer maintain that calm and peaceful expression. He was no longer a kindly old man, but instead took on the terrifying form of a god. A fat, white giant worm, uglier than the queen insect, emerged from the sea of ruins, and endless light illuminated the world in all directions. Let's end it today, you vile mortals. As the giant insect breathed, powerful divine arts shot out. Swords of light, arrows of light, and chains of light were everywhere. There was no place to hide, and it attacked from all sides. Even if it had been weakened a lot, the Heavenly Father was much stronger than the Virgin Mary. Gandalf said, I will meet the enemy head-on, and you two will attack when the time is right. Fine golden scales appeared on his body surface, and billions of runes poured out from his body like a torrent. They swirled around him, forming an indestructible protective force field. One after another, divine arts were cast upon it, causing the force field to tremble continuously. But it did not break. Ace and Victor hid behind Gandalf and attacked. The three of them had just experienced a great battle, and now they were fighting another powerful god, so they naturally did not dare to slack off. Various precious legendary potions that restored spiritual power were quickly consumed. Dozens of companion spirit creatures surrounded the giant insect and attacked it non-stop. The war lasted for 3 years. During this period, the strength of Heaven's merciful Father was declining every day. When it reached a certain critical point, he could no longer hold on, and was blown to pieces by the offensive of the three heroes. At this moment, there was no divine power left in his body. The three heroes were also exhausted and relied on drugs to keep going. After cleaning up the battlefield, they rushed to the kingdom of God of the Father of Heaven as quickly as possible and extinguished the dim divine fire. At this point, both the loving Father and the Virgin Mother passed away. Half of the top 10 powerful gods in the star realm had fallen. The death of the loving Father was the last straw that broke the camel's back. The supreme battlefield finally ushered in a major turning point. Chapter 3203. The plateau was hot and sunny. The glorious gate, which had stood in the sky since time immemorial, suddenly collapsed. It revealed the kingdom of God that had turned into ruins behind it, as well as 3 tall figures. Gandalf spoke. The spoils of the Father and the Mother are many. There are 3 treasures alone, and 7 divine tools. Ace showed his delight. There were 3 treasures. They were the Burning Sun ancient sword, the Holy Cloth of Light, and the Eclipse Moon blade. All of them were fine products. The first one once belonged to an ancient powerful man known as the Sun King. In his early years, Gandalf had obtained the sword of the Sun King, which was made by this powerful man. Unfortunately, the Sun King was destined to be killed by the merciful Father of Heaven. God does not allow mortals to tamper with the path of light. Ace said that these treasures were of little use to the 3 of them. They would put them in the Parliament treasury and give them to the newly promoted legends to save their lives. All 7 artifacts would be remelted. Next, their wizard towers could be upgraded and iterated. Gandalf agreed. Indeed, the death rate of newly promoted legends on the battlefield is a bit high. It is not easy to participate in such a large scale, or not long after the breakthrough. Victor suggested they retreat first. The 3 of them had hardly rested during the 700 years of war. Next, they planned to return to Nora to digest the spoils, recast their magic weapons, and prepare for the final battle. As for the Lord of Chaos, Victor decided he would deal with that person personally to be on the safe side. Deep in the astral realm, the underworld ancestor easily restrained the 2 supreme gods. Suddenly, these 2 supreme beings roared in despair. Their momentum declined visibly, falling from the supreme level to a level above the 4 emperors. No. As the right-hand man of Star Ancestor, these 2 were in the middle of level 11 during their peak period. After being invaded by the Zerg, they fell to the initial stage. The defeat in the war against the heavens made them realize that sooner or later they would fall out of the supreme stage. But when this moment came, it was still unacceptable. After 700 years of fierce fighting, the Lord of the Underworld had reached her limit. She had sublimated herself many times just to restrain these 2 supreme gods. Now they had fallen to a lower level. The time had come. She let out a long roar towards the sky, and then 2 sword energies slashed out. Under the supreme power, the God King and Goddess did not hold on for long before they died. Their death was very quick, and they did not seem like the major bosses of the Star Realm at all. The long sword of the Underworld ancestor was inserted into the void. She held the sword and gasped. Her current state was like that of an ordinary person who had just finished a marathon, without any strength at all. It was a month later that she finally breathed a sigh of relief. It is finally over. Even if there were a few hundred more years, she would still be afraid of getting lost. After she cleaned up the spoils, she quickly went to the supreme battlefield where Amon was. Next, she only needed to kill the Chaos Servant to free 2 more supreme fighters. Nora's victory is in sight. Boom. The red gold sword energy tore open the crystal wall. Then a mighty torrent of shadows poured into the 666th level of the abyss. The black armored swordsman fell to the ground, sensing his surroundings. There is no demon. This was the territory of the Chaos Waiter. Unlike the previous abyss layer, there was no one here. However, from time to time, one could see the decayed corpses of some powerful beings in the world, including gods, demons, and mythical creatures. They must have been killed by the Servant of Chaos. Levi picked up the garbage in accordance with the principle of not wasting. If Aaron eats it, it can also produce level 10 fertilizer. He said so. After making sure there was nothing else special about this layer, Levi looked at the army behind him, which was lined up in neat rows like at a military parade. There were 100,000 shadow dragons, all at level 6. There were also tens of thousands of demon generals, 1,001 demon kings, and 56 demon emperors. This was a legion that had been trained in the abyss for 700 years, and had gone through countless rounds of survival of the fittest, with the best of the best being selected. Their strength was more than what it appeared on the surface. Among the 56 demon emperors, there were 3 quasi-supreme ones. There were 18 top-level experts, 32 of them were in the middle stage of level 10, and only 6 were in the early stage of level 10. Above the Shadow Legion, there was an endless sea of blood. The blood-red swordsman stood on the top of the waves, a supreme mid-level combat force. Billions of blood-red evil spirits rolled in it, eager to tear apart all the enemies in front of them. Plus the universe-level treasure red dragon cutting iron. The above were the results of Levi's 700 years of battle to break through the abyss. Of course, in Yongzhen Xingyuan, there were hundreds of legendary creatures, and 8 mythical creatures that were undergoing transformation, and there were tens of thousands of rare animals and plants. The rest of the exotic treasures, minerals, and other resources were countless, and they were of little help to Levi now. These were the foundations of Nora's future. Levi took the Legion back to Yongzhen Xingyuan. He tore open the crystal wall with the hand of the universe, and came to the land of darkness. After being destroyed by him, the abyss worm was riddled with holes, and a large amount of demonic energy leaked into the universe, turning the area of hundreds of millions of miles into a demonic energy domain. Fortunately, there was no civilization near the abyss, so no secondary disasters were caused. This problem also needs to be solved by future generations. Levi believed in the wisdom of future generations. He was only responsible for building the country. How to govern would depend on future generations. The 667th layer of the abyss was also in the process of being conceived. If there had not been this war, the strength of the abyss would have been even greater. The abyssal will is too ambitious. Year 5210 of the Nora calendar. The Chaos Emperor breaks through the bottomless abyss. Year 5220 of the Nora calendar. The Emperor returned to his loyal Nora. The powerful men of the Supreme Council lined up to welcome them. Hela also woke up from her sleep. She yawned and rubbed her eyes. She slept very comfortably because she could always hear the lullaby faintly in her ears. This was a feeling she had never experienced before. The two supreme beings met and shook hands in the sky. Levi thanked her sincerely. "Thank you, ma'am." Hela pulled her hand back and said that he was welcome. She asked what his plan was next. Levi said that they should not worry, and they would talk about it in the meeting. In front of the round table, more than 100 level 10 people sat together. Levi said with a serious expression that now their heaven fighting alliance had gained an advantage in the astral realm, but the enemies they faced were not only gods and demons, but also the rapidly evolving Zerg. Chapter 3204. Over the past few hundred years, the Zerg have relied on us to contain the main forces of the Star Realm, allowing them to plunder resources on a large scale. Now 130 Zerg queens and their corresponding arms have emerged. Do not underestimate their numbers. Their actual combat power may surpass that of the Xingyuan alliance at this stage, and almost all of them are top-level warriors. We must treat the Zerg as a well-trained army, and never take them lightly. Now, the Star Ancestor is about to fall from the Supreme Realm. There is no other supreme combat power in the Star Realm, and there is only one Chaos Servant, making a final stand in the abyss. After killing the Chaos Servant, all of our supreme forces must head to the depths of the Astral Realm. We have only one goal. We must snatch the remains of the Star Ancestor, and prevent them from falling into the hands of the Abyss Will, and the Mother Nest Will, especially the latter. The Heaven Fighting Coalition will continue to advance at the current pace. Nora has left behind 40 level 10 warriors, organized into 5 8-person formations. With Master Beilong, the Dark Ancient Tower, and the Dream Whirl, this lineup is sufficient to deal with any changes, and hold out until we return to defend Nora. All other powerful fighters, together with my Shadow Legion, will cooperate to hunt down Lone Queen insects. Finally, we will join forces with the Thousand Hills nations and the Heaven Fighting Alliance. Everyone must cooperate well. The Zerg army is not comparable to the scattered forces in the Star Realm or the Abyss. In terms of sheer quality, we in Nora are currently inferior to them. The group looked solemn. To hear the speaker of the Grand Council speak in such a tone proved the Zerg were a powerful enemy. This battle would surely be extremely dangerous. The Frost Witch spoke. Next, I will make reasonable allocations based on everyone's abilities to ensure Nora and the Pest Control Corps have a perfect lineup, increasing our error tolerance. I know many people want to go to the Astral Realm to kill gods, but Nora must be defended. I hope everyone understands. Herman added. Our mechanical school has also recovered some vitality. I am confident I can become a god-level mechanic within 100 years. By then, I will be able to create a mechanical god to protect Nora. Levi replied. Okay, thank you for your hard work. If you need anything, let me know. The School of Mechanics is extremely important to us. We need to develop mechanical creations to fight against the Zerg as soon as possible. After the meeting, the Frost Witch looked at the busy Levi and asked, Sir, won't you take a break for a while? Levi shook his head. I am fine. I was not very tired in the abyss. The upcoming battle for the Star Ancestor is crucial. I need to work out some tactics with Hela. The Frost Witch nodded. Okay, do not get tired. The man in front of her had just returned from the abyss after 700 years. Even with the Shadow Legion, how could he not be tired? But the responsibility he shouldered was heavy. If it were her, she might not be able to bear such pressure. In less than half a year, a legion composed of shadow dragons and the Nora regiment was formed, with a total of 108 level 10 warriors. Most were in the middle stage of level 10. When fighting against the Zerg, one cannot be careless. To avoid unnecessary casualties, the Nora Council did not arrange for level 10 beginners, except for those with functional or auxiliary roles. The top-level experts alone accounted for 1/3 of the total. This insect extermination army was codenamed Shadow of the Emperor. The two strongest among them were the Lord of Disaster and the Lord of Death. They could fight against top-level queen insects like the Black Star Queen. When ready, the Emperor's Shadow Legion quietly arrived in the Star Realm. They would head to the Zerg battlefields. While the gods were still holding the Zerg back, they would seize opportunities to kill the Zerg queens. Priority was given to them over gods and demons. Gods and demons were no longer the main threat. The Zerg were the Emperor's biggest concern. The reason the Star Realm did not pay enough attention to the Zerg in the early stage was because they missed the best opportunity to wipe them out, eventually destroying themselves in the chain reaction. Before leaving with Hela, the Chaos Emperor met Master Beilong, who was repairing the ancient pagoda. "Master, you are really not Sauron?" Master Beilong said helplessly. "I am not." The Emperor nodded and said gratefully, "Thank you for your timely help, Master." Master Beilong's forging skills were exceptional. It took him hundreds of years to repair the Dream Whirl. With this cosmic treasure, Nora was as strong as a rock. If the ancient tower were also repaired, Nora would not be afraid even if a supreme being came to kill them. Master Beilong replied, "You are welcome, Grand Council Speaker. I am Sauron's clone, so it is my duty." Levi continued, "Master, if I am not mistaken, your strength should be close to the highest level, right? If Nora is invaded by a powerful enemy, please help. We will come to support you quickly." Master Beilong smiled. "That is about it. Go ahead and do not worry. By the way, take this sword. You can use it directly, or integrate it into your magic weapon." As he spoke, he produced a heavy sword. This sword is called Zengzing, and it is a powerful dragon sword. Levi took the giant sword and swung it a few times. "It is a good sword, but it is a pity I do not have time to recast it. Otherwise, my red dragon slashing iron could be even better. Using this to kill the Star Ancestor would be just right." After bidding farewell to Master Beilong, Levi and Hela came to the battlefield deep in the Star Realm. The Servant of Chaos was now surrounded by three supreme beings, Hades, Amon, and the Fire Lord. He was completely suppressed and had no power to resist. His fall was only a matter of time. As for Zarathus, the Will of Heaven, and 8 other top powerhouses, they had already been incorporated into the Emperor's Shadow Legion by Levi as the main force against the Zerg queens. Seeing 2 more supreme beings join the fight, the Chaos Servant laughed miserably. "Ha ha ha ha, come on." He received commands from the Will of the Abyss to delay them as long as possible. Levi snapped his fingers and the spirit of the bloody battle emerged. The Chaos Servant fell into despair. He was now under siege by 6 supreme beings. Among them, 3 had agent-level combat capabilities. This was a lineup strong enough to challenge the Supreme Will. It was like a mouse surrounded by a group of cats. Struggling was a luxury. 10 years later, the Chaos Servant was destroyed. Levi swung the star-slaying sword, releasing a brilliant surge of energy to deliver the fatal blow. Before he died, the Chaos Servant looked towards the abyss and passed away, as the earliest rising giant. Chapter 3205. The Abyss never thought such a day would come. The last rays of the Empire were setting. The only turning point lay in the will of the Abyss itself. The battlefield subsided, and only the sword energy ravine remained, stretching for tens of millions of miles with no end in sight. Levi grabbed the supreme magic core with the hand of the universe. He announced to the group, "Everyone, we will distribute this after the war. Follow me to the depths of the astral realm first." He now had 5 complete supreme cores on him. They were the Dark Godhead, the Earth Fire Magic Core, the Feng Shui Magic Core, the Star Magic Core, and the Chaos Magic Core. These items were obtained through the hard work of everyone, and he would certainly not keep them all for himself. Even if he needed to refine them, he would ensure everyone received sufficient compensation. The godhood of the God King and God Mother belonged to the Nether Ancestor. This was entirely her credit, and was considered a trophy of the Nether world. Nora did not participate in that distribution. Levi checked everyone's condition. Amon had been fighting for too long and needed to rest. Levi said, "You go back to Nora and rest for a while, so you can guard Nora. We are enough for the next battle." Amon was very tired. At the beginning, he had intercepted the Chaos Servant alone with the regiment, and burned a great deal of essence. It was only after the Fire Lord joined that he felt a little better. He obeyed the order of the Speaker of the Grand Council. Amon looked at the other supreme beings and said, "Everyone take care. No one should be left behind." The Fire King responded, "Don't worry, there are so many of us. Nothing will happen." Hela suggested, "I suggest you go to the Nora core and get some sleep. You will recover quickly there." Amon smiled. "Okay." The ancestor of the underworld said, "Let's hurry over without further delay." The 5 supreme beings traveled across endless distances to the deepest battlefield. Sauron continent. Amon returned, exhausted. The fiery star witch greeted him. "Welcome home." Amon nodded and returned to the Nora core. He leaned against the stone wall, looking at the Nora will, and muttered to himself in a low voice, "Thank you, Grand Master of Wizards. Please allow Amon to get some sleep first." As Amon fell asleep, the eternal blazing sun within the darkness let out a thunderous sound, sounding just like his snoring. He was simply too tired. Green Emperor Heaven. A gigantic starlight egg suddenly cracked. Rich vitality filled the air, and countless rays of light condensed into the figure of a knight in grey armor. He looked like an immortal god, with a pair of translucent wings like a butterfly behind him. It was the Ash Knight. As early as 100 years ago, he had gone into seclusion to achieve a breakthrough. After experiencing many hardships, he was successfully promoted to Star Knight. He mused to himself, "Now the Fire Dragon Knight and the Blood Knight have joined the Heaven-slaying alliance to slay gods and hunt demons. How can I be absent from such an exciting battlefield?" After the star butterfly dragon myth, he underwent a complete qualitative change. He was confident in the healing abilities of the Nora Corps. There were only a handful of people stronger than him. With the participation of a military doctor like him, Nora's casualties could be effectively reduced. Upon sensing the member's promotion, the Emperor's message of congratulations was delivered immediately. Congratulations. 3 years later, the Ash Knight joined the Heaven Fighting Alliance. He became the Star Butterfly Doctor, a figure who saved lives and healed the wounded on the battlefield. He became as famous as the 5 poisonous doctors. Ash Nighthawk was the leader of the Ash Apostles. He met the Emperor in 1037 of the Old Holy Era, and was one of the first elders when the Twilight Temple was established. In the year 5230 of the Nora calendar, the Ash Knight was promoted to the Star Knight. His knight title was Star Dragon Envoy. His knight star was Holy Star, and his knight motto was, "The Ember that never extinguishes, the Star Dragon that saves the world and saves souls." The Emperor remarked, "When I first met the Ash Knight, I saw him facing the original vampires with his mortal body, and I knew he had the appearance of a star. Ashes live towards death, and they live forever." Shortly after, on the continent of Sauron, shadows covered the sky. The Shadow Queen, Aya, refined the legendary artifact known as the Shadow Throne. She then embarked on a legendary journey under the watchful eyes of all living beings, and returned successfully. The legendary profession she certified was the Crown of Shadow. Her legendary title remained unchanged, as she was still the Shadow Queen. Her legendary demiplane was the Shadow Realm, which was a world of its own that could breed shadow creatures. It was also the camp for the shadow creatures she summoned. On this day, I came to the dark side of Nora. Vecna woke up from his deep sleep and looked relieved. "Congratulations," Aya replied. "Teacher, I will find a solution for you." When Vecna heard this, he was stunned at first. Then he smiled happily and said, "Okay." Aya did not know that after the Supreme War, Vecna had used too much power. He was on the verge of falling into a complete sleep and being assimilated by the will of the shadow. Aya said, "Then I am going to the battlefield first. Take care, teacher. I will be back soon." Vecna watched Aya leave. 3 years later, when sleepiness came again, Vecna closed his eyes. He felt his memories slipping away and said with regret, "I really cannot bear to part with it. Still, this is for the best. The ancestor of wizards will become Nora's will and guard Nora's positive side. I will become the shadow's will and guard Nora's dark side. I will live forever in the long sleep." This time, he never opened his eyes. The lonely shadow, Vecna, fell alone on the dark side of Nora. This was the place he had guarded for thousands of years. From now on, he would be like Sauron, completely integrated with the shadow will. Except for some obsessions, he would no longer have a normal personality. One day, a great wizard from the School of Shadows came to visit Vecna, as he did on a daily basis. He called out to him thousands of times in various ways. However, Vecna, who always responded, never showed up again. The wizard seemed to have thought of something, and came to Roger Mountain. In the void at the very center, there was an envelope floating. This was the letter Sauron had written to Vecna. After reading it, the great wizard could not help but have tears in his eyes. He whispered, "Mr. Vecna." In the letter, Sauron had told Vecna all the consequences and the final outcome of becoming the master of the dark side. Vecna had known his fate from the beginning. This was a road of no return. Yet, he did not look back. Roger Mountain stood quietly. Spring went and autumn came, and winter turned into summer. There was no change in the monotonous world of shadows. Chapter 3206. However, at the foot of the mountain, shadowy figures resembling stick men would occasionally appear. They had no self-awareness and were not considered living beings. Sometimes, they would sit alone on the top of Mount Roger, appearing as if they were watching over something. Some people call them the dark side spirits, or the spirits of Vecna. They are immortal and eternally lonely. In the year 5223 of the Nora calendar, the immortal shadow Vecna slept in the dark side of Nora. He turned into shadow to protect Nora forever. The Emperor posthumously named him the ancestor of the dark side. This is recorded in the 8th volume of the Nora epic, titled Twilight of the Gods. Deep in the astral realm, when Levi led the 4 supremes to the battlefield, the emotions of the 4 giants were complex. They felt excitement, despair, and anxiety. These powerful creatures had lived for billions of years, yet they still showed emotions like ordinary people. The mother river of the underworld saw the dawn of a new world. The star ancestor saw the destruction of the star realm. There was still a glimmer of hope in the heart of the abyss will, while the will of the mother nest was already thinking about what to do next. Levi asked the underworld ancestor and the Fire King to stay on the battlefield to watch the battle and plunder the enemy. They needed to respond to the will of the mother nest to create a deterrent effect. Besides, those two needed to rest. The spirit of bloody battle naturally pounced on the will of the abyss. It was created to fight against the devil. Levi and Hela rushed towards the star ancestor. The star ancestor knew that his life was coming to an end. He said angrily, "You are truly stupid. The will of the hive is much more threatening than I am. Without me, do you have the ability to kill the Zerg alone? If the Zerg do not die, this universe will turn into dust sooner or later." The will of the mother nest remained silent and continued to attack the star ancestor. However, Levi could feel a strong hostility locking onto him. It was obvious that the mother nest was also on guard against him. The will of the abyss said, "Why don't we kill the will of the mother nest first? Then, how about the 3 of us rely on our own abilities?" Levi, stop this. There are no eternal enemies in the world. Right now, destroying the Zerg is the top priority. The Star Ancestor also hurriedly said, yes, we gods and demons can put aside our past grudges and temporarily join forces. Nora can do the same. The Dark Universe is our territory. No matter how much evil the gods and demons have done, it cannot compare to the harm caused by the Zerg. Am I right? The Mother River of the Underworld remained silent. It trusted Levi's decision. The Mother Nest will felt somewhat uneasy. If all the supreme beings on the scene were to unite, it would have no chance of winning. It was already considering whether to temporarily evacuate this universe. However, it just could not bear to give up the large piece of fat meat that was about to be in its hands, which was the Star Ancestor. Levi listened to the conditions of the two supreme beings, but did not stop attacking. The Star Ancestor was anxious. How can you be so careless about the overall situation? The Abyss will urged while dealing with the bloody battle spirit. Stop it now. Without us, even if Nora alone can destroy the Zerg, you will still lose many of your compatriots. Is it worth it? Levi thought for a moment. Afterwards, he released the original ancestor's true body. The power of the original ancestor, condensed by 54-dimensional stars, was exerted through the Star Slashing Sword and the Red Dragon Iron Slashing Sword. It transformed into two boundless sword auras. Deep grooves immediately appeared on the Star Ancestor's body, and cracks appeared on the Pantheon. This was Levi's answer. What the Star Ancestor and the Will of the Abyss said made sense, but Nora did not trust them at all. Levi would not choose to cooperate with gods and demons. He believed in himself, and he believed in Nora. In short, the Star Ancestor had to die first. Everything was going according to plan. The Star Ancestor was furious. You will regret this. The Abyss Will was constantly paying attention to the status of the Star Ancestor. Once he fell below that level, it would take decisive action. It only had one last chance. If it failed, there would be no possibility of turning back from the Abyss. At the edge of the battlefield, the Fire Lord and the Underworld Ancestor were equally nervous. We must stop the will of the Mother Nest, no matter what. Let us do our best. The Supreme War made the Star Realm shake constantly. On this day, a figure quietly emerged and watched from afar. He was Kaz. The old Star Ancestor has fallen. I must witness it with my own eyes. Kaz held a grudge. Time flew, and a lifetime passed in the blink of an eye. The year 5300 of the Nora calendar had arrived. Deep in the Star Realm, all 10 supreme fighters of the Dark Universe gathered. There were even 7 people fighting in the center. The offensive of the spirit of bloody battle was extremely fierce. Combined with the attack of the Mother River, it made the will of the Abyss groan in pain. The momentum of the Star Ancestor became weaker day by day, until one day, the former strongest man who had dominated the universe for billions of years let out an unwilling roar. His voice spread throughout the entire Star Realm, leaving the still struggling gods in utter despair. Let us die together, the Star Ancestor said. He chose to self-destruct, just like the Nightmare will. He also self-destruct his original treasure, the Pantheon. Boom, boom. The self-detonation of the Supreme will created a super gap of 1 billion miles in radius deep in the Star Realm. The terrifying energy storm formed a vortex, swallowing up everything. The remains of the Star Ancestor were scattered across the battlefield like stars in the sky. The Pantheon also exploded with countless streams of light, and disappeared into nothingness. Many supreme beings at the scene took action at the same time to grab these spoils. Among them, the most important item was the Faith Godhead. This was the most powerful godhead that embodied the power of all gods. It was like the brightest star, hanging high above the battlefield. The Mother Nest Will and the Abyss Will both came out to snatch the godhead. The Nether Ancestor and the Fire King quickly rushed in and cooperated with Hela to contain the Mother Nest Will. The spirit of bloody battle and the Mother River stopped the will of the Abyss. In the center of the explosion, a shattered figure rushed into the sky. Chapter 3207. The broken figure was Levi. Using infinite land and his night defense techniques, he relied on the protection of the blood battle armor. He did not move too far from the self-destruction zone. He needed to seize the initiative. The will of the brood and the will of the Abyss thought the same. This kind of self-destruction would not hurt them. They pounced like mad beasts, but the Mother River and the supreme beings worked together to stop them. Only Levi had a chance to snatch the Godhead of Faith. To be honest, this thing was of little use to him, but he could never allow the Mother Will and the Abyss Will to obtain it. The will of the Mother Nest burned itself and roared, knocking away the 3 supreme beings, the Nether Ancestor, Hela, and the Fire King. It pounced toward Levi. The Godhead of the Star Ancestor was what it was determined to obtain. With this, it could enter the Star Realm. It would let the Zerg under its command develop rapidly, with the rich resources of the Star Realm. It would create hundreds of Zerg soldiers, then sweep across this universe and devour all living things. Its goal was not just the Dark Universe. It wanted to use this place as a springboard to become the master of the multiverse. Levi maintained his dual swords. His muscles tensed, and he slashed out crosswise. A boom echoed as the will of the Mother Nest released an invisible wave, submerging the cross-sword energy. A pure white witch image emerged and collided with the will of the Mother Nest. The hand of the universe slapped out from nothingness, and a white mark appeared on the insect shell, unable to penetrate its defense. Sure enough, the gap with the Supreme Will is still huge. Levi fought against the Mother Nest Will and quickly tested the strength of both sides. The Nether Ancestor and the others caught up again and restrained the will of the Mother Nest. The Ancestor of the Underworld said, Levi, you evacuate here first. The Mother River can stop the Abyss will alone. You can let the Blood War Spirit come to help us besiege the Mother Nest will and delay it for a while. Levi thought about it and agreed. The spirit of bloody battle came with the Sea of Blood to support the ancestor of the underworld. In this way, the lineup of 2 mid-stage supreme beings and 2 early-stage supreme beings was enough to restrain the will of the Mother Nest for a period of time and allow Levi to be promoted to the supreme level. Levi took this opportunity to quickly leave the Star Realm battlefield. The will of the Abyss was both shocked and angry, but the Mother River was inherently stronger than it. In this battle, it intercepted some broken remains of the Star Ancestor and the Pantheon. Apart from that, it did not gain any benefit at all and also consumed a lot of its resources. There was obviously no hope of breaking free from the constraints of the Mother River. Its goal was the same as that of the Mother Will, which was to take the most fertile Star Realm for itself, allow itself to go one step further, transcend the supreme power, and conquer more universes. But now, that had become a luxury. Looking at the Chaos Emperor disappearing into the astral realm, it knew that the Abyss had no chance of turning around. No, there was another possibility. With this in mind, it tried to communicate with the will of the Mother Nest. How about we join forces? Now the Zerg and the Abyss were both below their peak. If they wanted to defeat Nora, any normal person would join forces. However, the hive mind refused to communicate. Madman. This was how the will of chaos evaluated the other party. Now it seemed that this seemingly chaotic thing was the most normal thing in this universe. Other than that, they were all crazy. In despair, the Abyss will was thinking about how to escape. What it could not obtain, it would destroy. In this case, let the Star Realm be shattered. Let this universe restart. If it could save a little life, maybe there was still a chance to make a comeback. In the years 5200 to 5300 of the Nora calendar, the Dark Ancestor killed the King of Gods and the Mother of all Gods. The Fire Lord and the Blazing Sun Wizard slew the Chaos Servant. The Chaos Emperor and the Nether Mother River led the 6 supreme beings to kill the Star Ancestor. The Star Realm was leaderless and existed in name only. The Xing-Yuan Alliance became history, according to Nora Epic, Volume 8, Twilight of the Gods. On this day, in a distant place, the abyss worm that spanned the darkness began to wriggle violently. Its riddled, unhealable body bore witness to the trauma it had suffered from the Emperor over the past 1,000 years. And now, its insect head looked toward the star realm. The body squirmed and flew toward the endless height. The astral world was not like Nora. It could be reached directly from anywhere in the dark land as long as you had the ability to step into it. Under the control of the will of the abyss, the bottomless abyss rushed into the sea of ruins like a locomotive. A boom erupted as the eastern region of the entire star realm exploded. A giant insect with an incalculable length that almost spanned the entire star realm emerged, its head already broken. This was the crazy plan of the will of the abyss. Let the two giant worlds of the abyss and the star realm collide. It completely abandoned its physical body. There were also billions of demons in the abyss. Under this impact, no matter whether it was Nora or the Zerg, any living creature involved in the collision between the two worlds was annihilated without any suspense. A large number of level 10 auras were extinguished. From the depths of the astral realm, the crazy laughter of the will of the abyss was heard. Ha 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 ha, restart. Mother of darkness, you must be tired of being the lord of the universe. The sea of ruins was like an iceberg in the Arctic Ocean that was smashed by a submarine. It shattered, and the star realm also broke into pieces, drifting toward the boundless void, and finally broke into 5 pieces. These were the east, west, south, north, and the starry battlefield in the center. The abyss worms also broke into pieces, detaching themselves layer by layer. The demonic worlds and star fragments intertwined together like ink dripping into the water. Wait until the shock wave dissipated and the smoke and dust cleared. The astral plane and the abyss were no longer what they once were. Only in the deepest central sea, the supreme beings were still fighting. The supreme beings of Nora looked angry. The ancestor of the underworld said, "Abyssal will, you lunatic." The will of the abyss sneered, "I am crazy. You are crazy. Originally, the 4 of us giants could have coexisted for billions of years. It is your ambition in the underworld that has created all of this today." After a while, in the land of Nora, Levi looked at the broken starry sky at an infinite height. The shock waves from the collision of the two worlds even affected Nora's material dimension from the main spiritual dimension. Fortunately, he was at the scene and joined forces with Nora's will to dissipate the aftermath with extraordinary means. Even so, Nora suffered a lot of trauma. It was hard to imagine how many planes would disappear after this collision. Damn the will of the abyss, it harms others, and does not benefit itself. After confirming that there was no problem, he immediately convened a roundtable meeting for all staff. Chapter 3208. The Commander-in-Chief, the Lord of the North Sea, came online first, looking unhappy. Levi said, "What are the losses of each party?" The Lord of the North Sea reported, "A total of 32 of our level 10 and 426 level 9 warriors died directly in the collision between the two realms. Thousands of legions were affected and suffered heavy losses. The Silver Saint, the Ice Sea Traveler, and the Black Abyss Overlord also perished. However, all 3 have been successfully reincarnated. We still have 400 level 10 members in our Heaven-Slaying Alliance, and 99 Emperor Shadows, so the latter have not suffered much loss. The Emperor's Shadows were all elite. In the face of such a disaster, their chances of escape were higher." Hearing these legendary titles, Levi's murderous intent became even stronger. The will of the abyss had to die. The Lord of the Black Abyss had done him a great favor, and they could be said to be some of the most important people in Levi's life. This revenge had to be avenged. Levi said, all the dead and injured will be properly resettled as soon as possible, and reincarnated into new lives. The Lord of the North Sea replied, I understand. The ones who suffered the most in this incident were the gods. Because of their kingdom of God, they were unable to avoid the disaster. At least hundreds of gods died in this disaster, including more than 10 powerful gods. Now, only about 200 level 10 gods remain. They are basically concentrated in the Thousand Hills nations, with the Lord of Chaos at the head, to resist us and the Zerg's encirclement. Levi felt better after hearing this. He asked, how is the damage to the demons and the Zerg? The Lord of the North Sea said, more than 50 level 10 demons were killed, and only 230 remain. The Star Ancestor has fallen, and the Abyss has also given up on itself. This group of people has abandoned the Alliance, and most of them have fled to the multiverse. Only 1 in 10 level 10 combat forces in the Star Realm battlefield remains. As for the Zerg, they also lost more than 20 queens. Relatively speaking, their losses are minimal. Levi said, ignore the demons for now. Concentrate our forces to destroy the main force of the gods. Then, combine the Heaven-Slaying Alliance and the Emperor's shadows to destroy the Zerg army. The Lord of the North Sea asked worriedly, Grand Council Speaker, how is Nora? Levi replied, do not worry, Nora is fine. Nora's will and I have blocked most of the attacks. Next, I will go to the Star Realm battlefield in person, and kill the Lord of Chaos first. Hearing that Nora was safe, the Lord of the North Sea breathed a sigh of relief. However, he still felt heavy when he thought of the devastated multiverse. Levi comforted him, keep fighting. Time will heal all wounds. Destruction is also rebirth. The collision between the Abyss and the Star Realm completely cut off the possibility of restoration for these two giant worlds. They have lost their most important material foundation. The Lord of the North Sea said yes. After understanding the situation in the Star Realm, Levi left Nora. The Hades and his men could not restrain the will of the Mother Nest for too long. He wanted to take this opportunity to kill as many enemies as possible. The most important thing was to seize the godhead of the Lord of Chaos, to help himself reach an unprecedented supreme level of chaos. The former starry sea had now turned into star-filled ruins. The astral world and the abyss were entangled, with corpses everywhere. From the ruins in the center, the aftermath of the supreme battle spread from time to time. Because the star realm was broken, the legions of all parties were divided. The advance of the Heaven-Slaying Coalition was also affected. Fortunately, Nora had now gained an absolute advantage, and the battle reports from major war zones were mostly good news. Levi wandered around the sea with an expressionless face. Suddenly, he found the Salon Queen that once chased the Purgatory Sword. It was devouring some medium-sized god, and was completely unaware of Levi's approach. Levi reached out his hand and grabbed it. A top-level powerhouse was captured alive. The Salon Queen struggled constantly, but to no avail. Levi used the power of the Black Emperor Dragon to invade its body, trying to enslave the Queen Insect, but he encountered a powerful supreme level of resistance that expelled the power of the Black Emperor Dragon. Levi's expression changed slightly. He thought, sure enough, the Queen of Insects is essentially a part of the will of the Mother Nest. It is the incarnation of the Mother Nest will, and is closely connected to it. No wonder it is able to act with such efficient concentration, as if it were an extension of a single body. He stabbed the Queen of Insects half to death with his sword. Then, he applied many seals, preparing to suppress it and conduct further research. Unexpectedly, the Queen of Insects began to swell uncontrollably and blew itself up. The hive mind is quite alert, Levi muttered to himself. No wonder I have never heard of anyone catching a queen insect alive. He collected the queen insect materials and left immediately. This further strengthened his determination to prioritize killing the Zerg, or there would be endless troubles. Compared to the demons exiled to the multidimensional world, the fate of the gods was tied to the star realm. They could not leave the kingdom of God beneath their feet. Knowing that the Heaven-Slaying Coalition was about to invade the Thousand Hills nations, they could only sit and wait for death or fight stubbornly. In the Chaos Wilderness, as a being that was once ranked in the top 5 in the astral world, and is now ranked first, the Lord of Chaos had become the de facto leader of the astral world, and many gods had declared their allegiance. Eventually, a post-astral era regime was established. Its name was the Chaos God Alliance. The gods regarded the Lord of Chaos as their leader. The purpose was to help each other, fight against the Heaven-Slaying Coalition, and restore the glory of the Star Realm. This group of gods knew that the Star Realm had been shattered, and they had nowhere else to go, but they still chose to numb themselves and immerse themselves in past glory, to escape reality. In this regard, the Chaos Emperor said, no surrender will be accepted from Chaos Alliance members. Members of the Divine Alliance will be killed without mercy. Of course, there were also gods who had not joined the Chaos God Alliance. There was the Great Prophet, the god of prophecy and wisdom. This entity advocated making peace with Nora to save lives by laying down weapons and surrendering. In the past, this approach would have been attacked by everyone, but now that the gods were at their wits' end, many gods rallied to him. The Star Covenant was established. Nearly 100 gods gave up resistance and surrendered to Nora. The Lord of Chaos strongly condemned the Great Prophet's weak behavior, but nothing happened. The Nora Council accepted the surrender of the Star Covenant, and allowed them to join the Heaven-Slaying Alliance, to fight against their former compatriots, in order to redeem themselves from their crimes. In this way, Nora's level 10 combat power was greatly supplemented. The last 200 gods in the Star Realm were also completely divided by the Great Prophet, and they were no longer a threat. Chapter 3209. The Great Prophet was named the Great Military Advisor of Heaven's Destruction by the Nora Council. He secretly accepted the Emperor's summons and met Levi through the Round Table. The Great Prophet's shape was more like a compass or a clock. This reminded Levi of Master Balong. It also reminded him of the Great Prophet's action of leading the gods to submit to Nora. Levi seemed to be thinking about something. He asked, "You are Sauron's clone, right?" The Great Prophet laughed and said, "Yes, I am the first clone." Levi thought to himself that it was indeed so. Now, he had captured 3 of Sauron's clones. They were the Great Prophet, the Lord of the Fallen Star, and the Holy King of Heavenly Wisdom. All were related to wisdom. He thought, if Sauron has a 4th clone, he must also be someone who masters divination and fate. Looking at the multiverse, it seems that only the ignorant monarch is left. After all, the only clone left is the one in the nightmare world that I have not found yet. But this guy is too stupid. Or perhaps it is possible to be wise but appear foolish. Of course, none of this mattered anymore. The Heaven Fighting Alliance joined forces with the Star Covenant to uproot one divine kingdom after another, extinguish one divine fire after another, and sweep away the members of the Chaos Divine Alliance, making them a laughingstock. The Star Realm entered the countdown to destruction. At the same time, the Chaos Emperor had come to the Chaos Wilderness alone. He was wearing blood battle armor, with one hand wielding the red dragon iron-cutting sword, and the other holding the star-slashing sword, not concealing his powerful aura. A tall, white-faced god appeared in front of him. He was surrounded by earth, fire, wind, water, chaos, and disorder. It was the Lord of Chaos. On this day, the 2 practitioners of the 2 chaotic paths finally met. Let me introduce myself. I am Chaos Emperor Levi. Levi, in a white robe, smiled calmly. The Lord of Chaos had a solemn look in his eyes. Even though his strength had declined, he was still at the level of the 4 emperors. But he knew that compared to the man in front of him, he was nothing but a dwarf. Levi sighed inwardly. He still remembered that during his mortal days, his most important enemy, the Boar Rider, was a member of the Wilderness Brotherhood, that is, a follower of the Lord of Chaos. 6,000 years had passed. He had climbed to the top step by step and finally surpassed the god. He began as a Boar Rider and ended as a Chaos Lord. Was this not a perfect circle of destiny? Behind the Lord of Chaos, the Dark Wizard Emperor also had a complicated expression. As for the infamous 4 Chaos Gods, they had already died in the previous Zerg invasion and the assassination by the 3 heroes of Gondor. Now, only the master and servant depended on each other. There were no extra words from either side. Levi raised the star-slashing sword, and the vast sword energy broke through the chaotic wilderness. The Lord of Chaos burned his divine power to sublimate himself for the last time. After the extreme collision, the latter was blown away. His divine power barrier shattered at the slightest touch. The Lord of Chaos laughed. "Although I am dead, you are not much better, because the way of chaos has no way forward." After saying this, he died. The Chaos Divine Kingdom collapsed, and the divine fire was extinguished. Levi collected the spoils of the Lord of Chaos. He looked at the Dark Wizard Emperor, who stood there motionless. Facing this traitor of wizard civilization, he had nothing to say. "You should kill yourself, so as not to dirty my sword." The Dark Wizard Emperor was also disheartened, and really did it. His breath was getting weaker and weaker. There was regret and unwillingness in his eyes. If he had not chosen to become a god, but instead chosen to live his life again, it might not have been impossible to gain a place in today's golden age. Unfortunately, he was on the wrong side. He had overestimated the gods and underestimated Sauron and the future Nora. At this point, the gods of the Chaos Wilderness became extinct. Levi was alone and disappeared in the Sea of Ruins. News of the Chaos Lord's death spread quickly across the astral realm. The Chaos God Alliance announced its dissolution just a few years after its establishment. In front of the Chaos Emperor, everything was nothing. The morale of the Heaven Fighting Coalition was greatly boosted, and they advanced rapidly. With losses less than 1/5 of those of the Star Realm gods, they broke out of the Wangxiang Forest and fought their way into the final Thousand Hills Kingdom. Here, the gods were besieged by the Zerg on their own isolated islands. At the same time, the 3 heroes of Gondor emerged from seclusion. All 3 of them were senior cultivators with 10 rings, and their legendary wizard weapons had been qualitatively improved. Especially the wizard tower that had been integrated with Amethyst was even more indestructible. The Chaos Emperor changed his tactical strategy, and merged more than 100 gods of the Star Covenant led by the Great Prophet, and more than 100 Nightmare Lords led by Findle. The Heaven Fighting Alliance sent 200 strong men to join the insect-killing army, totaling 400 level 10 fighters. They gave their all to assist the Emperor's Shadow Legion in killing the Queen of Insects on the battlefield. Under the leadership of the 3 heroes of Gondor, another 200 strong men of the Heaven Fighting Alliance launched a large-scale siege against the lingering gods in the astral realm, and the level 10 demons that were harassing the Legion. Levi himself was responsible for killing the powerful gods and queens of insects who were ranked at the top. Nowadays, after an epic weakening, 60% of the gods of the Thousand Hills and various nations had been downgraded to medium-level gods, and were not a concern at all. Levi also led the way and conquered the kingdoms of God one by one. Powerful gods, such as the Lady of Night, and the scorpion goddess were slain. He urgently sent the latter's godhead to the Nora Pharmacist Association to facilitate Triss, Miss Rowling, and others to research poisons against the Zerg. Deep in the astral realm, the four supreme ones, including the underworld ancestor, also burned themselves, trying to contain the will of the mother nest there. The abyss will was trapped by the mother river of the netherworld, but was still fighting hard. Time passed. Time quickly came to the 5,400th year of the Nora calendar. After Levi dealt with several powerful and difficult gods, he also killed some fleeing demons, and the most difficult Black Star Queen, among the hundreds of queens. In the queen's abdomen, he found the remains of more than a dozen treasures and artifacts. This showed how ferocious this big guy was. Two of them caught Levi's attention: the Dark Temple and the Sword of the Covenant. This was the most precious treasure of the Council of all races, and was later presented by the Amethyst Saint to the Lord of 10,000 golds. The latter was killed by the Black Star Queen, and his godhead was taken away by Victor. The rest were swallowed whole by the queen. Now, everything was back in Levi's hands. He murmured, "This item can be given to Master Baelong for research." The Nora Council wanted to forge a connector of all worlds that would allow all Nora tribes to communicate anytime and anywhere in this universe. It would be a cosmic-level treasure. Chapter 3210. After taking inventory of the harvest, Levi contacted the Lord of the North Sea, the Will of Heaven, and others. "The rest of the war will be left to you. I will retreat for a while and ascend to the highest level. Otherwise, it will not be enough to kill the Mother Nest Will and the Abyss Will." The Lord of the North Sea replied, "Do not worry, Grand Council President. You have already hunted down the most difficult character for us. If we fail to complete the task successfully, we will be ashamed of you and Nora." The Will of Heaven said, "That is right. You should take this opportunity to rest for a while. I do not think you have rested for 900 years in the heaven-destroying war. You would not be able to hold on even if Sauron came back." Zara thus said, "I wish the Grand Council Speaker the highest success. When you leave your seclusion, it will be the eve of a new world." Many powerful people gave their sincere blessings. In the nearly 1,000-year war, the Chaos Emperor led the people to fight against the Xing alliance, disintegrating the two giants step by step, and finally laying the foundation for the current victory. He also broke through the bottomless abyss alone and killed billions of demons. This was undoubtedly a qualified speaker of the Grand Council. Levi looked at the ruins of Xing where flames of war were raging. "When I leave seclusion, I will put an end to all wars." Ancient Dragon Continent. Levi returned to his long-lost home. Coincidentally, the Black Knight also broke through to level 10 and became the Star Knight. After he broke through the barrier, he led out a long roar toward the sky. He heard from Levi that the war against heaven was about to end. He took a short rest and then rushed into the star realm. Time was of the essence. If he was any later, there would be no gods left to kill. How would they brag about it in the new world then? The brothers who had reached level 10 in the Temple of Dusk had all killed gods. Elena even killed one at level 9. If you do not kill a god, you would be embarrassed to say that you are one of the 18 Riders of Dusk. Levi did not know whether to laugh or cry. As their generation entered their 6,000th year, the 18 Riders of Dusk were basically in the late 9th level, or even the peak 9th level. Within this 1,000 years, they should be able to step into the 10th level one after another. With Levi's current strength, even if they were just a little bit short, there was a back door that allowed them to succeed. Of course, he hoped that this trick would never have to be used. Black Knight Black, the leader of the Black Apostles, joined the group in 1036 of the Old Holy Calendar, and was promoted to Star Knight in 5400 of the Nora calendar. His knight title was the Magic Knight of Chaos, his knight star was the Star of Beasts, and his knight motto was, "The King who commands all beasts, the Black Knight who brings chaos to the world." The Emperor said that the character of the Black Knight was like black rum, fierce and brave, upright and honest. Ancient Banyan Wonderland. Levi looked at the girl in green in front of him with slight surprise. Her body was as solid as that of an ordinary person, and she was shining with a faint golden luster, emitting a level 10 aura. "You did not expect that I am also level 10. Mana chuckled and gave Levi a surprise. Levi praised, "Yes, your power incarnation has the combat power of an early level 10. Your original body should be able to rival a mid-level 10th level. Congratulations, you have become a true sacred tree." Mana added, "It is still the youngest sacred tree." Levi smiled and said, "It really is." He had not talked to Mana for a long time. The two of them had a long talk, expressing their feelings about the passage of time. A circle of dragons surrounded them, including some new faces, all of whom were brought back from the abyss by Levi. He handed over the sky-splitting golden silkworm and its eggs to the entomology school for research. The mythical creatures brought out were sent to the battlefield of Phasian. After chatting with these old friends, Levi came to the small rock pond. He learned from the bodyguards he sent out that the three siblings had also achieved impressive results in the war in the Star Zone, but in order to prevent exposure to the enemy's field of vision, these results were not made public. Now, all three of them had reached the middle stage of level 9. After Elena was promoted to legend, she had been on the Phasian battlefield. I guess she will not come back until she gets promoted. Nora's supernovas such as Purgatory Sword, Heim, and Aya also shone brightly on the battlefield. It was these shining figures that had been leading the tide of Nora's era since the beginning of the bloody battle, and they were not dimmed by the glory of the Emperor. "Let us start." In front of Levi, pieces of crystals emitting supreme rules emerged. His mental strength had reached its limit now. After consultation with all the supremes, and seeking the opinion of the Mother River of the Underworld, Levi obtained ownership of the 4 supreme things: Earth Fire, Feng Shui, Star Magic Core, and Dark Godhead, which he used to ascend to the highest realm. The supreme things of the God King, God Mother, and Chaos Servant were allocated to the Underworld. The final Godhead of Faith would be shared by Nora and the Underworld after the victory of the war. This distribution was more fair. It looked like Nora got 4 supreme cores, but 1 Chaos Magic Core was equivalent to 2 ordinary Supreme Magic Cores. The Mother River also intercepted a lot of Pantheon wreckage. In short, they should not let these things ruin the harmony. After all, the war was not over yet. As for the Foreign Aid Fire King, he did not ask for any reward. He just wanted to fulfill the promise made by Sauron in the past. After all, Sauron gave him half of the primordial fire. However, the Nora Council promised that after the war was over, Master Balong and the mechanical school would use a more advanced method to repair the Dark Ancient Tower. They could use the original fire that was used as energy inside as a reward to the Fire King to replenish his original fire. Finally, Levi took out a Chaos Godhead. Although it was not the supreme thing, it was the core of Levi's promotion to the Supreme. Chapter 3211. Using the Chaos Godhead as the cornerstone, the 4 great magic cores as the material, and Sauron's heaven-stealing method, I have created a magical item that will help me break through the shackles of chaos. This rare item is of such high specifications that it is rarely seen in the world. It should not be much worse than the core of a supreme will. This is just Levi's wizardry path. He also possesses the night paths of the 6 supreme bloodlines. The fusion of all of them will definitely surpass any supreme will, and even the peak star ancestor could not compare. The premise of all this is that Levi is successfully promoted. He opened his proficiency panel. Levi. Legendary class Chaos Emperor. Knight profession Rider of 6 dragons. Composite occupation Infusion. Current progress 80%. My Night star is currently at 9 stars. If it were all 10 stars, the progress would be about 90%. The best solution would be to be promoted to Supreme Knight first. After gaining significant strength, I can be promoted to Chaos Supreme in turn. Perhaps the success rate will be higher. Levi determined his next path. With the strength of the Nether ancestors, they can only hold out for 300 years at most against the Mother Nest will. I must be promoted to the Supreme level within 300 years, otherwise, their lives will be in danger. Of course, Nora also has a Supreme. That is Amon. However, Amon consumed too much energy before and is still sleeping. Levi had no intention of letting Amon continue to participate in the rest of the battle. The other Supreme being is Kaz. Whether he would take action was not within Nora's control. If Kaz, a mid-level Supreme Master, took action, it would not be a problem to hold out for another 200 years. It is even possible to suppress the Mother Nest will in turn. After completing all the preparations, Levi went into seclusion. If nothing unexpected happens, this will be his last retreat in this universe. The long river of time is mighty and powerful. Inside the castle of time, the colorful dragon wore glasses and recorded everything intently. Ever since it glimpsed the wrong future last time, it has never used its abilities to predict the direction of this war again. That would be meaningless. If you had not seen it with your own eyes, who would have thought that the Star Ancestor, the strongest person in the universe, would be the first to be eliminated after the Nightmare will? The stagnant timeline has produced billions of branches in this era, and everything is possible. As of now, there is still a mastermind behind the scenes who has not yet died. That is the Mother of Darkness. Or rather, it has ended. The chaos of all the giant forces in the universe is what it wants. If all these supreme beings fall, the universe will be peaceful. There will no longer be any giant forces that disrupt the order of the universe. All of this was unknown to the Time Dragon. It is just a book writer. It knows nothing. 100 years passed. Under the triple pressure of the Zerg, the Heaven-Slaying Alliance, and the Star Covenant, the remaining gods fell one after another, and their blood was spilled all over the world like the dust of the times. On an ordinary day, the last god was found by the 3 lords of Gondor. He had 2 faces, his eyes were covered with his hands, and he was wearing a gorgeous red veil. Gandalf said, "Mrs. Sherlin, the Lady of Dreams." The Lady of Dreams said dejectedly, "I did not expect that you would find me hiding here. Come on, let us finish it." She gave up resistance, and her body was trembling. Gandalf said, "You do not have to run away, because we do not intend to kill you." The Lady of Dreams smiled bitterly and said, "More than 500 gods have fallen at Nora's hands. I do not think I will be the lucky one. If I do not run away, I will only die faster." Victor said, "The Emperor has said that among the powerful gods, there are several who can be spared from death. You are one of them. As for the reason, you must know it." The Lady of Dreams' memory went back thousands of years. Could it be because of the time when Amon rescued Taoist Master Lin Meng? Having escaped the disaster, Zealin quickly expressed her gratitude. "Thank you for your grace, Emperor." Zealin will be loyal to the Emperor. In the afterglow of dusk, the figures of the 3 heroes disappeared into the golden sea of ruins. In the year 5500 of the Nora calendar, on the first day of the first month, the star realm was destroyed, and the gods left. The Millennium War of Heaven ended. The war against the gods is over. The battlefield under the supreme level could finally breathe a sigh of relief. The wounded quickly evacuated the battlefield and returned to Nora for treatment. The rest of the people had another mission. which was to fight the insect war. In the year 5510 of the Nora calendar, the three heroes of Gondor led 150 online level 10 warriors to support the Emperor's shadow. At this point, more than 540 level 10 warriors surrounded more than 110 Zerg queens. Nora's level 10 force was 5 times that of the Zerg, and the number of top warriors also exceeded that of the Zerg. Compared to the Zerg Legion, Nora's only disadvantage is her poor teamwork ability. These 500 people include gods, myriad races, wizards, nightmare monarchs, and other people from all walks of life. All Zerg are controlled by the will of the hive. Those queens of insects are closer to its incarnation, so the coordination is perfect and seamless. This makes Nora's battle to eliminate the Zerg much more difficult than that of a god. Everyone also understands why the Star Realm has not been able to eliminate the Zerg after thousands of years. On the one hand, it is because the Star Realm was too scattered and weak, but the more important reason is that the Zerg is too strong. Fortunately, the Emperor's Shadow Legion was very powerful. They were also well trained, and each of them had been killed in a sea of blood and corpses. Their overall quality was not inferior to that of the Zerg. With the assistance of the Shadow Legion, Nora annihilated the Zerg strongholds step by step. Even so, Nora's casualty rate in the battle against the Zerg was twice as much as when she fought against the Star Gods, and this was even when she had the advantage in numbers. Basically, every time a queen insect is killed, Nora will also lose a level 10 warrior. Most of the dead were gods and nightmare monarchs. On the one hand, the Nora Council deliberately let these giant natives participate in dangerous battles to reduce the damage to the Nora tribes. On the other hand, these two parties lacked the ability to work as a team. Many dangers were brought upon themselves. Time passed. In the blink of an eye, another 60 years passed. After an arduous battle, only about 30 insect queens were left, relying on the complex terrain of the Star Realm ruins to survive, and waging guerrilla warfare with the Insect Extermination Army. Chapter 3212. It is not easy to completely eliminate the threat. Including those who surrendered, there were still more than 500 Nora level 10 warriors. In general, it was only a matter of time before Nora achieved a complete victory on the battlefield. The key now lies in the supreme battlefield. They just needed to kill the will of the hive and the will of the abyss. Nora's work with the underworld would then be completely finished. All of this required one person. That was the Emperor. With the fall of the gods, the liberation of the multidimensional faith sites became smoother. Countless church statues collapsed on their own, and even divine blood flowed. One star fortress after another broke through the boundary and entered the land of faith unimpeded. The faith of the gods in the Star Realm, which had ruled for billions of years, completely collapsed. Of course, for those who surrendered like the god of sky and birds, the Nora Council chose to show some leniency and not destroy their places of faith indiscriminately. In accordance with the instructions of the Chaos Emperor, the Parliament established the Nora Religious Affairs Committee in all places of faith to carry out work on religious freedom. These missionary works that were in obedience to the gods could continue, but forced belief was not allowed. The Parliament deprived the Church of its law enforcement power. Not only that, all theocratic regimes were gradually disintegrated. It was replaced by the Nora Plain Administration. The Plain Management Bureau was affiliated with the Supreme Council. Its leaders were many wizards or powerful people of the Nora tribe, who were above level 6. They were responsible for managing and supervising the work of the faith. Once someone reported that the church was forcing faith, the two major institutions, the committee and the administration, would take action. They would impose corresponding punishments on the church in accordance with the provisions of the Nora Code on Religion. The code retained the death penalty for the gods. Once a god violated the principles or tried to restore the Star Realm, the Supreme Council would dispatch powerful beings guarding the Star Realm to destroy his kingdom and extinguish the divine fire. There would be no chance of rebirth forever. From then on, all places of faith in the multidimensional world were brought under the jurisdiction of the Nora civilization. However, the autonomy of independent civilizations and countries outside the places of faith was also respected, as long as it did not involve religious belief activities that restored the astral world, and did not involve evil gods, demons, or other cults. They would not interfere. From now on, the gods would exist as vassals of the Nora civilization. They would not have any privileges. They would be treated equally with ordinary extraordinary people, and would be managed by Nora. At the same time, according to statistics from the Nora Council, there were at least 200 level 10 demons now roaming the multiverse. These included the Wind Lord, the Dark Spider Queen, the Eternal Sleeper, the Lord of all Poisons, and many other powerful demons. All of them were old friends of the Nora people. Now that the war against the gods was over, the task of conquering these demons was put on the agenda. The High Council appointed Gandalf as the commander-in-chief of multidimensional demon exorcism, and Gargamel as the deputy commander. They established the Nora Security and Demon Exorcism Department. The Demon Slaying Division selected level 10 warriors from the Supreme Council. They formed teams of 8. They tracked the traces of demons, going deep into the universe to hunt down all level 10 demons. The only one who could escape death was the Succubus Queen. This person was also a hero to Nora. As long as he was willing to surrender, the Nora Parliament would naturally show leniency to him. However, he was too cautious and did not trust the Nora Parliament. So, he did not know where to hide. The succubus queen only trusted the instructions of Sauron. But after the will of the abyss awakened, Sauron never appeared again. The demon-slaying division was established not long ago. The dark spider queen was captured by Gandalf himself. After the High Council placed restrictions on her, they handed her over to Triss, the 5-poison doctor, for disposal. Up to now, Triss already had many poison research subjects as references. These included the corrupted king, the scorpion goddess, the dark spider queen, and the 5 poison lords. She would use these as a basis, combined with the knowledge of Zerg research from Miss Rowling, to formulate a highly toxic spray against the Zerg. It was codenamed Insect Killer. It would give the Zerg, who were engaging in guerrilla warfare with Nora, a final blow. In the year 5600 of the Nora calendar, Red Emperor Heaven, the Fire Dragon Knight opened his eyes. In the void ahead, a golden figure was fighting against countless disasters. The man holding a huge stick was Emperor Mew. It has been 7 years, and it is not over yet. The Fire Dragon Knight was a little worried. Except for the master and apprentice pair of the Holy Ape Knight and the Golden Lion Knight, all the old generation of knights had successfully been promoted to Star Knights. Now all 18 riders had entered the 6,000-year-old era. Knights have a long lifespan. Those at level 9 can live for more than 7,000 years. Some people with certain physical constitutions can even live longer than legendary wizards. But the earlier you advance, the greater your potential will be. You will go further on the road to level 10 in the future, and you can become a top-level warrior. Come on, he said silently in his heart. If the leader had not been in seclusion, he could have opened a back door for Emperor Mew. However, the 18 riders all had their own dignity. Otherwise, Emperor Mew could have waited for Levi to break through before being promoted. 3 years later, accompanied by wild laughter, a giant red gold ape with a mighty aura and standing tall appeared. It is only level 10, but I, Emperor Mew, have taken it. Emperor Mew's excited voice echoed in Red Emperor Heaven. Congratulations. The Fire Dragon Knight sent his blessings. Emperor Mew showed a relaxed look and said, so this is the Red Emperor Heaven. The Fire Dragon Knight said, yes, this is the dimension opened up by the captain. If he had not conquered these territories, the difficulty of our level 10 catastrophe would have to be at least doubled. Emperor Mew was shocked. Dear me, twice. It should be no problem for a freak like you. But for old guys like me and the Black Knight, it may not work. Thank you, Captain, for saving my life again. At this moment, another voice was heard. Don't take me with you. It is much easier for me to survive than for you. The Black Knight dropped from the sky and joked. He was also holding a divine corpse in his hand. This was the weaker god, the god of wind and cloud. When Emperor Mew saw the corpse of the god, he slapped his forehead and said, oh, I haven't killed a god yet. The Black Knight said, it is too late. The gods have perished. Only 100 or so are left. They are our people. We cannot kill them. But you can participate in the demon killing mission. Killing a demon will make do. The leader said that in the future, when compiling the Chronicles of Twilight, both gods and demons will be counted as achievements. Chapter 3213. Muty said in annoyance. Damn it. These gods are too weak. I finished before I even started. Shortly after, Muty consolidated his state of mind and hurried off to find Gandalf. He told himself he must kill one to prove his worth before the demons were all gone. Holy Ape Knight Muty was the leader of the Holy Ape Apostle Group. In the year 1017 of the old Holy Glory calendar, Muty met the Emperor who had just entered the wizard world, and they became friends. In the year 5603 of the Nora calendar, Muty was promoted to Star Knight. He later killed the lord of the 246th layer of the Abyss, the Stone Ridge Demon King, in the 367th star sector, and became famous in one battle. His knight profession was the Holy Tianese Fist. His knight star was Yin Tian Chi Sing. His knight motto was the Unruly Divine Fist, the ape king who fights heaven and earth. The emperor once said that the holy monkey was optimistic and open-minded, and was his best friend. Winter passed and summer went. Time moved on. 10 years later, the Golden Lion Knight was also promoted to Star Knight. His knight profession was Golden Lion Knight. His knight star was Glorious Gold Star. His knight motto was the Roaring Lion in the Starry Sky, a warrior with honor above all else. So far, all 18 riders of the old generation were promoted to Star Knights. The year 5700 of the Nora calendar, Elena returned from the astral battlefield. She gained some insights during the battle, and began to retreat to become a Star Knight. In the same year, the Dark Moon Knight was promoted to level 10. His knight class was Void Moon Knight. His knight star was Tenguin Moon. His knight motto was the Hound Chasing in the Void, the Magic Rider Devouring the Moon. Hundreds of years ago, his wife Garona underwent a lich transformation at the School of Death due to the end of her lifespan, and became a 9-ring Great Lich. At that time, the wizard Baldur excitedly announced it to the world. A new method of lich transformation was now available. Garona was the first beneficiary. After becoming a lich, Garona could continue to practice, and had the possibility of further advancement. Because the lich theory was not yet fully mature, there were many unpredictable difficulties and obstacles during this period, but being able to survive was a victory. Next, the School of Death would further improve the lich path, striving to make lich transformation more popular, thereby increasing the upper limit of the lifespan of all people. The year 5730 of the Nora calendar, the Thousand Illusion Knight was promoted to Star Knight. After reaching level 10, she opened up a new dream world in her body that was similar to a legendary demiplane. Its size was comparable to that of a medium-sized world. It also gave birth to the first batch of super dream creatures. These were magical creatures born by absorbing the positive emotional power of all living beings. They were the opposite of nightmare creatures. The abilities of super dream creatures were varied. Some could make people happy, some could heal the soul, and some could even assist wizards in meditation. One day, it would profoundly affect all walks of life in Nora civilization. Thousand Illusion Knight Erica was the leader of the Illusion Apostles. She joined the group in the year 1155 of the Old Holy Calendar. She was promoted to Star Knight in the year 5730 of the Nora calendar, with the Supreme Mu Dream bloodline. Her husband was Golden Dreamland Og. Her knight profession was Dream Creator. Her knight star was Phantom Dream Star. Her knight motto was the female knight beyond nightmares, the mother of the beautiful. Knights who perceived dimensions in later generations generally affectionately called her Dream Madam. It corresponded exactly to Ogre's other title, the Father of the Soul. Because of their outstanding contributions to the Road of Dreams, Ogre and his wife were both listed as the 10 ancestors of dreams by the Supreme Council. They would be revered by all generations, and their reputation would last forever. The first of the 10 ancestors was the famous Daydreamer. In addition, many dream masters, such as the Blue Dream Star Lord and the Wind and Moon Wizard, were also among them. The Emperor said that women were as good as men, as they overcame nightmares and created legends. The year 5750 of the Nora calendar, the Steel Dragon Knight was promoted to Star Knight. His wizard cultivation level was also at the 9th level. He could clearly feel that he was still a long way from being promoted to legend, and he could not be compared with supernovas like the Shadow Queen. After careful consideration, he chose to prioritize promotion to Knight. At present, with the captain paving the way ahead, the difficulty and failure rate for the 18 riders to be promoted to Star Knights were slightly lower than those for being promoted to legendary wizards. Whether or not to prove the legend again in the future depended on chance and luck. The legendary catastrophe was no joke. Even though he had reached level 10 in cultivation, if he rashly advanced and failed, it might cause irreparable losses. Steel Dragon Knight Andrew was the leader of the Steel Apostles. He joined the group in the year 1162 of the Old Holy Calendar, and was promoted to Star Knight in the year 5750 of the Nora calendar. In his previous life, the Steel Dragon Knight was a second-born vampire named Andrew, a servant of the Emperor. At the call of fate, he was reincarnated as the Knight Andrew. He had excellent talents as a wizard and a knight, and was good at research, which laid a solid foundation for the establishment of the Knight's extraordinary system. He was praised by later generations as the Knight Saint. His knight profession was Iron Sky Knight. His knight star was Sky High Dragon Snake. His knight motto was a giant snake riding on the clouds, a paladin seeking knowledge through investigation of things. The Emperor said that Steel Dragon was smart and good at learning, and that the Emperor himself was not as good as him. Although the above words were just the Emperor's humble words, they still gave some idea of what he meant. Time passed. Soon it was the year 5800 of the Nora calendar. After 100 years of seclusion, Elena broke out. As a legendary wizard who had been training in the battlefield of Phasian for hundreds of years, it was easier for her to be promoted to a knight than she had imagined. She felt the complete leap in her life level and was overjoyed. She was now 6,500 years old. She was a relatively latecomer among the 18 riders, but she was different from the others. She was Nora's second fellow practitioner of level 10 wizard and knight besides Levi. In order to make the two paths run parallel, she developed her own set of theories based on the knowledge taught by Levi, and successfully put them into practice. This was of great reference significance for future knights and wizards. Levi's chaotic path was too special. In fact, her reference value to others was not as great as Elena's. The complete bloodline of the Candle Dragon allowed her to surpass the lifespan of mythical dragons forever. Even without the bonus of the Lover Rune, she could easily live for 100,000 years. Chapter 3214. In addition, she is also a legendary wizard. The boost provided by her dual professions makes it difficult to estimate her true lifespan. Moreover, the Lover's Rune remains in effect today. The Heaven War has ended. To ensure the safety of the remaining 20 star gods, Levi asked the behemoths to move to Nora temporarily. After all the wars are over, he will find a paradise in the star realm for them to return home. With Levi's current knowledge and strength, it is not difficult to reshape the former Starforger civilization. These 20 runes can also be popularized to the public after the war. The Zilong is the dragon of the world. If one possesses this bloodline and resides near the world tree, they will receive a strength bonus, and their cultivation will be smoother. This is a symbiotic relationship of mutual achievement. Elena moved the Summer Flower Tower near Mana. Mana complained that Elena was essentially forcing her to witness public displays of affection right at her doorstep. In addition, the 10th levels along bloodline already involves the rules of time. This allows Elena's combat skills to resemble those of Hela, as she is able to reverse part of time and space. It is a powerful ability. After sharing her joy with Mana, Elena went to the small rock pond. Levi has been in seclusion for 400 years, and she was unsure of his status. There was no trace of him by the stone pond, and her expression changed slightly. How could someone be locked away and simply disappear? As his wife, she holds Levi's soul card, and it does not indicate that Levi is in any trouble. Could it be that he is lost? As she worried, the figure of the girl in green appeared. Do not be nervous. Levi disappeared 100 years ago. Before he left, he told everyone not to worry, and said that he would appear in front of us in a supreme manner. Trust him. Mana's words made Elena feel relieved. Okay, thank you. She arrived at the small rock pond, and felt the aura left by Levi. It is a pity that I cannot share my joy with you right away. I have found a more suitable method for the dual cultivation of wizard and knight. Levi, come back soon. The 100 Flowers Knight, Elena, met the Emperor during his week period as a soul in the year 1156 of the Old Holy Calendar. She later joined the 18 Knights of the Twilight, and became the Emperor's wife. In the year 5140 of the Nora calendar, Elena was promoted to legend. In the year 5800 of the Nora calendar, Elena was promoted to Star Knight. Her knight occupation is Dragon Tree Paladin, her knight star is Star of Creation, and her knight motto is the dragon that depends on the sacred tree, the swordsman who controls the 4 seasons. The Emperor once said that you can always hear such words in the Shining Tavern. May your wife be as beautiful as the Knight of Flowers. Meeting hundreds of flowers is my greatest wish in life. The years passed. As the war gradually moved toward victory, the Templars returned from the battlefield at dusk. The Snapping Turtle Knight, the Jade Elephant Knight, and the Feather Knight also went into seclusion to sprint toward the 10th level. As for the Bluebird Knight, the Halo Knight, the Dragonflame Knight, and others who joined later, they were still a little short of the 10th level. However, if nothing unexpected happened, they would all be promoted within 1,000 years. 6,000 years have passed. The 18 Riders of Dusk have officially entered the 10th level era. After eternity, the 18 Riders might disappear. However, they have become cultural symbols of chivalrous civilization. The glorious years when the people, led by the 18 Riders, united around the extreme knights, and blazed a trail for knights will become a beautiful story, passed down from generation to generation. In a dark place, the impact of the war of all races against the sky was so far-reaching that it affected the entire multidimensional plane. Even many places outside the Pan plane that were originally paradises were caught up in the war. Most wars are inseparable from the demons on the run. It stands to reason that if one wants to run away, they should actually act like they are running away. If they stir up trouble, they are easily discovered by Nora. However, demons are simply jerks who want to cause trouble whenever they see the world. This is how Gandalf and his companions obtained many clues for their hunt for demons. On this day, a 10th level fish demon, the King of Shallow Sea, under the command of the Wind Demon Lord, arrived in a world of ice and snow and saw a towering crow-shaped temple standing in the distance. If I can devour all the living things here, my injuries can be healed. The abyss was destroyed, and a large number of demons were left homeless. Without enough demonic energy, it was extremely difficult to recover from injuries, and they could only make up for it by devouring the vitality of all living things. Suddenly, a 10th level aura rose into the sky. It was an extremely handsome blue crow. If it is not Aya, then who else could it be? A group of legendary divine birds chirped and called beside the crow. Emperor, there is a demon invasion. This is a 10th level demon. Only the Emperor of Heaven can fight against it. This world is the crow heaven that Aya built with great effort. He opened a harem here, collected a lot of beautiful birds, and lived a peaceful life. This damn devil. Does he not know that this entire area is protected by Emperor Crow? It is 10th level, so why am I, the Crow Emperor, not his match? So Emperor Crow rolled up the ice and snow and fought a fierce battle with the 10th level fish demon. The sky was freezing cold and the sun and moon grew dim. Within 10 moves, Emperor Aya found that he was no match for his opponent, so he immediately gathered his wives and concubines and fled away from the Yaetian realm. The way it escaped was so skillful that it was heartbreaking. Even if it is a fish demon, who is merely a 10th level floor tile, it is not someone that I can mess with casually. The crow understood that it was time to go home. It calculated with its fingers that King Li Long should be promoted soon. It did not expect that it could follow Levi and become a supreme spiritual creature. That was impossible. It just wanted to get rid of its situation of being the weakest 10th level warrior. At the very least, it had to be able to defeat that fish demon. Chapter 3215. Time flew by. Under the leadership of Triss, the highly toxic drug known as insecticide, which had been developed by the Pharmacist Association, was put into use on the battlefield. Nora officially launched a biological war against the Zerg. Previously, the God and Demon barrier had proven the effectiveness of biological warfare. This time, the Nora alliance was full of confidence. This confidence was well-founded in the early days. In less than 100 years, half of the Zerg had died at the hands of the insect killers. Only 9 of the most difficult Zerg queens remained. They relied on the Star Abyss to fight guerrilla warfare to delay time. They were looking forward to a turning point on the battlefield above the supreme level. As long as the will of the hive remained, the Zerg would not perish. As long as there were sufficient resources, they could revive like indestructible insects. In the late stage of the biological war, Nora was once again shocked by the Zerg's strong adaptability and evolutionary ability. All Zerg that survived for 100 years quickly developed a strong resistance to the insecticide. These Zerg became even more powerful. Nora temporarily gave up on biological warfare. The safest course of action was to continue using the crude method of physically eliminating the Zerg. The war had continued until now, and the victory of the supreme civilizations had become a foregone conclusion. The coalition forces of all parties had a total of 480 level 10 warriors. New level 10 warriors were constantly being born in Nora. The demons and Zerg were just struggling to survive. The only variable was the battle of the Most High. With the death of a large number of queens, the strength of the mother nests will had visibly weakened. However, Hades, Hela, and others were also reaching their limits. 100 years ago, Kaz had also joined the battle. He shared a lot of pressure with everyone and further delayed the inevitable. But although Kaz was strong, he was not enough to make the final decision. Everyone was anxiously awaiting the appearance of the Chaos Emperor. Only he, who was always invincible at his level, and capable of fighting against opponents above his rank, had the ability to kill the two supreme wills. But where did Levi go? This was a question that everyone was concerned about. The Jinju tribe called the Dark Land the Black Sea. Levi was now in a dark and boundless ocean. 10 stone pillars that reached from sky to earth stood silently between heaven and earth. Some were simple and old, exuding the breath of the timeless wilderness. They had mottled traces of rust on them, like iron towers that had long stood on a coast and were constantly eroded by the Black Sea. Others looked brand new. They had obviously just appeared. Most of these new columns were very thin. They were tottering under the huge waves of the Black Sea. Levi existed within this world. He felt a profound sense of loneliness. There was no one in front of him, and no one behind him. He had come to the deepest place in the universe. A plane has a will, and the universe also has a will. Each plane is a miniature version of the universe, a cell of the Dark Land. However, compared to the plane core that was easy to reach, no one from ancient times to the present had ever reached the core of the universe. It was even more impossible to truly glimpse the true will of the universe. Levi might have been the first. Levi murmured to himself. The 10 pillars represent the 10 supreme beings. The 2 red flame pillars represent Amon and the Fire Lord. The 2 gray dead pillars represent Hades and Hela. 2 completely different blood pillars stood there. One belonged to Kaz, the supreme demon of bloodline. The other was the supreme achievement of killing and devouring all demons, the spirit of blood war. A colorful pillar stood nearby, which he suspected to be the time dragon. There were 3 thickest pillars. They were the black magic pillar, the yellow death pillar, and the golden insect pillar. They were obviously the will of the abyss, the mother river of the underworld, and the will of the mother nest. In addition, there were some collapsed pillars. For example, under Levi's feet lay the remains of a giant pillar of starlight. It was being decomposed bit by bit under the scouring of the Black Sea. Invisible rules and truths continued to seep out and pour into this black ocean. On this giant pillar, Levi saw the life of the star ancestor. Levi also saw the broken pillar of the nightmare will, which lay in the Black Sea. It was full of holes due to being washed and corroded, like a reef on the seashore. All the supreme beings in this universe are constantly being washed away by the land of darkness. But at the same time, they also support this universe and become part of the rules. While the 4 giants devoured the resources of the Dark Land, they were also quietly used by it. Once they fell, they would be eroded by darkness and return to heaven and earth. It is a delicate balance. Civilization has positions and camps, but the Dark Land does not. It uses its invisible hand to constantly regulate everything in the world and maintain its operation. Levi came to the Pillar of Amon. Faintly, he saw countless black threads spreading out from under the sea. They were like indescribable tentacles inserting into the interior of the pillars, producing complex interactions. This interaction involved many rules or truths such as time and fate. In a trance, Levi could not tell whether Amon was acting according to his own will or the will of the Dark Land. Not only Amon, but all the pillars had silk threads. The universe is like a play, and the Mother of Darkness is the one pulling the strings. As expected, even the Supreme cannot escape the fate of being controlled by the universe. Even if the Star Ancestor was the strongest in the universe, it was difficult to escape the fate of death. It was not that the Star Ancestor was not strong enough. It was that it had not transcended, and had not jumped out of the chess game. Of course, this control of the universe could not be evaluated from the subjective perspective of life. This was an objective law, a truth, and an established rule. Unable to transcend the universe, there would always be various causes and consequences and disasters befalling living beings. No matter how strong you were, you would be eliminated due to factors such as changes in the times and general trends. The death of the Star Ancestor was the ending that Sauron and Nora wanted. Was it not also the goal of the Dark Land? The same was true for the Nightmare Will. Levi's consciousness swept across the area. After searching for a long time, he found a pile of white pillar debris. It had been eroded by the Black Sea, and there was little left. This was Sauron's high pillar. There were very few black silk threads wrapped around it, and many of them had been cut off artificially, breaking abruptly in the sea. Levi suddenly realized something. Sauron was a foreigner. He traveled through time and space. He was essentially a being born in another universe, so he faced very few restrictions here. He chose me as his successor to take advantage of this fact. That way, I would have the opportunity to break free from the constraints of the universe and reach the legendary realm of supreme transcendence. In short, time travelers are more likely to encounter bugs. Levi saw his entire life through the remaining pillars of Sauron. It was not much different from what he knew about Sauron's experience. Sauron did die. But before he died, he used his own methods to cut off a small part of the bondage from the Dark Land. This was an unprecedented attempt. Unfortunately, Sauron was very smart, but his absolute strength was not strong enough. The era he lived in was an age of ignorance for mankind. He was able to lead the rise of wizard civilization, and set up so many backup plans under the nose of the giants, which was already the limit. He was willing but unable to compete with the universe, and could only place his hopes on future generations. That successor was Levi, a fellow countryman who also came from outside the universe. He created an advantage for Levi, and a sufficiently powerful wizard civilization as a shelter. This allowed Levi to grow and develop in the cradle. Levi did not fail in his mission, and crushed the enemy all the way. After figuring this out, Levi looked at his proficiency panel. His night breathing method had been upgraded to the ultimate level of 10. He had condensed 60-dimensional stars in his body. He tried to fuse the 6 dragons, be promoted to the Supreme Knight, and then use the Night Path to lead the Wizard Path, thus stepping into the Supreme Chaos. Eventually, the two merged. Unfortunately, plans cannot keep up with changes. Just when he started trying to become the Supreme Knight, he got lost. It was not just an ordinary lost state. He directly merged into the universe and came to this core area. In a way, this meant that he had failed in his ascension to the supreme level. The reason why Levi was not panicked was that he believed that the Dark Land could not do anything to him. Otherwise, with the will of the Abyss being so erratic, he would have been trapped here to death long ago. There was no need to go through all the twists and turns to balance the Abyss by supporting the underworld. As long as he was alive, Levi could find a way out. There were always more solutions than difficulties. The problem now was that the degree of integration had reached 99%. And would not increase any further. Nowadays, his mental strength had reached 200,000, which was the highest standard that Amon had ever set foot on. He had also mastered the 36 legendary spells, and the 3 legendary spells of the Chaos Emperor. Everything was ready, except promotion. He opened his palms, and a pure white lotus blossomed. This was the supreme magic item he refined, the Lotus of Chaos. Its raw materials included the 3 supreme magic cores of Earth, Fire, Wind, Water, and Stars, the Dark Godhead, and the Chaos Godhead. In addition, there were some original relics he got earlier, such as fragments of Nightmare, Disaster, Chaos Stone, and unrefined Scarlet Blood. It could be said that this strange object was a complete hodgepodge, but that was how the path of chaos worked. The more inclusive you were, the more complete you became. After this small failure, Levi analyzed that he wanted 100% fusion. He might have to be promoted to both a wizard and a knight at the same time, to achieve a perfect unity of body and spirit. The problem was that he was not completely sure about the way of chaos. That was why he wanted to be a knight first and then a wizard. But now, this approach was no longer feasible. Relying on the Nightmare Emperor Dragon's super-perception, he had a hunch that once he took this lotus and forcibly impacted the supreme level, it might bring about unexpected changes. Whether it was good or bad, he did not know. His promotion had always been smooth sailing. He dared not say that it was 100% successful, but at least it was guaranteed to be more than 90% successful before breaking through. This time, it seemed that he could only take a gamble. Looking at the chaotic white lotus in his palm, Levi was torn between his caution and his desires. Eventually, he took it. The surging power of chaos surged into his body and rushed into his mind. Levi's mental power began to surge again, starting from 200,000 and increasing by tens of thousands of points every once in a while. His pure white soul was burning fiercely, as if it were sublimating. Soon, the mental power exceeded 300,000. Then it was 400,000, 500,000. When the mental power reached 800,000, the growth rate began to slow down. Levi was thoughtful and watched it stop after reaching 810,000. 200 years passed quickly. Is the limit of mental strength also 810,000? Levi's figure became increasingly blurred. It seemed that there was some force tempting Levi. As long as he accepted this power, 810,000 would not be his limit. His mental power could exceed 1 million, 10 million, 100 million, infinitely. For a moment, Levi almost accepted it. He even wondered if this was the legendary feeling of floating in the air and ascending to heaven. Until 6 giant dragons appeared in his mind. They roared, waking Levi up. Before Levi was promoted to Chaos Supreme, the body of the originator was also operating on its own. Sensing anomalies, they automatically activated. The 6 dragons coiled around each other and rose into the sky. Finally, they gathered together like a twisted hemp rope to form a colorless and intangible conceptual dragon that was difficult to describe, but really existed. It was a dragon and also a human. It could be all spirits and living beings in the universe. It was the embodiment of 6 dimensions: strength, defense, speed, endurance, physique, and perception. It was extremely powerful, but it was not complete. Because it did not have eyes, it could not see the way forward. Levi, who was immersed in the pleasure of increasing his mental power, was suddenly awakened. He did not know when, but his body began to fade uncontrollably, as if it were about to transform into a spiritual creature more vast than the universe, and become a part of chaos. But that was not what he wanted. In this way, he would inevitably follow the old path of Vecna. Vecna had been assimilated by the will of the shadow. Levi was being assimilated by the dark universe. At this time, the original body, formed by the 6 Emperor Dragon breathing method, became the anchor point for retaining Levi's consciousness. It became the shell that carried Levi's vast mental power. He did not need spiritual power as infinite as the universe. There are 3,000 rivers of water, and he only needed to take a sip. 810,000 mental power was the best value in the world. Too much was as bad as too little. The UN soul returns. In a flash, the ethereal spiritual power and consciousness formed billions of information flows, which flowed eastward into the sea and merged into the form condensed by the 6 dragons. The invisible 6-dimensional concept began to become tangible. There was a hub in the center of the hexagonal warrior. This was the 7th dimension of the transcendental path spirit. As the saying goes, the finishing touch is the dragon's finishing touch. The eyeless dragon had a pair of bright dragon eyes that encompassed the universe and the sea of stars, and transcended the mundane world. When it opened and closed, it was like the birth and death of the universe. It turned its head and looked at its dragon body. Perception was made into dragon whiskers, strength into dragon claws, speed into dragon tail, defense into dragon scales, endurance into dragon tendons, and physique into dragon blood. This was the most perfect body. All dimensions were perfectly integrated and indistinguishable from each other. Every move represented perfection. This was the true ultimate form. It was the ultimate creature that Levi had fantasized about since he embarked on the path of knighthood. It could take any shape, but because Levi naturally regarded the dragon as a perfect creature, it reflected such an appearance. Levi wanted to open the proficiency panel, but found that it had disappeared. The reason why I was stuck at 99% and could not merge was that Sauron was using his own experience to remind me. Only when the spirit and the body are simultaneously able to achieve the highest level can we avoid sinking into the illusory expansion of spiritual power, avoid deeper irreversible loss, and avoid being assimilated by the universe and losing our own personality. At this point, the proficiency panel was no longer important. Its final mission was finally completed. The remains of Sauron's pillar under Levi's feet were glowing with fluorescence. He murmured with some emotion, "You have always been by my side." Sauron was divided into 3. The body was integrated into the dark ancient tower, the will was integrated into the Nora core, and the spirit and knowledge were combined with more than 10 original relics to forge the proficiency panel. This game-like presentation method was the most suitable form of expression in the mind of Sauron, the game maker. Levi called his current extraordinary career Original Dragon. It controlled 7 dimensions and dominated chaos. It was immortal and timeless. This was the result of his hard work. It was also the result of the sacrifices of Sauron and countless predecessors of civilization. This profession was not unique to him. Only the wisdom of the group and the guidance of heroes could achieve the strongest. Huge waves arose in the boundless Black Sea. The original dragon transformed into the shape of Levi. In this dark place that should not have any emotions and was extremely ruthless, a strange black shadow similar to a woman appeared. It also had no shape and was difficult to describe. This was the will of the universe. He was the final winner among the primordial spirits competing for supremacy, the mother of darkness, the master of this universe. It was weak and yet very strong. It could be a speck of dust, or it could be a universe. Realm had no meaning to it anymore. Levi knew that this was the last disaster he had to survive. He did not panic, but said calmly, "In the ancient and pre-ancient times, whether it was the Twin Dragons' expedition or the giants' destruction of the sky, behind every major event, the Time Dragon observed a dark shadow. At first, I thought it was Sauron, or a powerful person from the shadow world interfering. Now it seems that this shadow is you, right? You who have transformed into the universe are not completely without the ability to interfere with the operation of the universe. You are hiding very deeply. The Mother of Darkness should also be able to do something. It was just that the cost was extremely severe." The Dark Mother remained silent. After a brief standoff with Levi, it finally said in a strange female voice, "You cannot leave here." Levi replied, "I want to leave." The Dark Mother said calmly, "The Mother River's will is getting stronger day by day, and the Abyss's will is doomed to fail sooner or later. Since the war, there are only about 500 level 10 warriors left in the universe, and more than 80% of them are from the Nora civilization. The Zerg and the demons are no longer a force to be reckoned with. Both Sauron and you have accomplished your mission. Why are you so persistent?" Levi replied, "I know that the final victory belongs to us, but if I go out, I can save more friends and billions of lives, and avoid meaningless deaths." The Dark Mother said, "What is the use? They will die eventually. In this war that almost restarted the entire universe, the multiverse has lost 1/3 of its living beings. But it will not be long before new creatures emerge and restore the balance of the universe." Levi replied, "You do not understand." The Mother of Darkness fell silent again. Levi's promotion this time was different from his previous supreme existence. He achieved it. It was not the supreme realm at all, but it was a higher realm. There were still 10 pillars standing in the vast Black Sea. The one belonging to Levi had not appeared yet. Without a pillar, it meant that the Mother of Darkness would not be limited to this universe, which meant that she had lost her macro control over the unknown. This was something she could not accept. Levi no longer paid attention to the Mother of Darkness. His eyes penetrated time and space and saw the depths of the astral world. He saw that Kaz had already joined the battlefield, and that Amon had awakened in advance and rushed into the depths of the astral world to take over the battle. He saw that Hela, Hades, and the Fire King were not in good condition either. It has been 600 years. Originally, Levi estimated that everyone could only hold out for 300 years. After Kaz joined the game, it could be increased to 500 years. Unexpectedly, the plan could not keep up with the changes. The difficulty of this promotion was so great that 600 years had passed without him knowing it, and finally, Amon was forced to take action. Only then did Levi persist until he succeeded. The will of the hive must die. The will of the hive was different from the ordinary supreme will. Whether it was the star ancestor or the abyss, they all had some concerns, because they were born in this universe and achieved the highest level in this universe. The erosion force of the Black Sea that they suffered was extremely strong. Therefore, the 3 pillars were covered with mottled rust belonging to the abyss will and the netherworld mother river. However, the pillars belonging to the will of the mother nest looked very new. Although it was also born in this universe, it did not achieve the highest level here. It could use its power more unscrupulously and more crazily. It also opened a bug. If Levi did not take action, even if Nora won, then Amon, the king, Hela, and others would also leave. Nora had been at war for nearly 6,000 years and had seen too many people leave. There were so many seniors and friends that Levi was familiar with, and there were many others that he was not familiar with. They were more than cold, heartless numbers. They were the helpless ones abandoned by the tide of the times. Nora urgently needed a long rest. As long as the mother nest and the will of the abyss were alive, he would be uneasy. Levi's figure became illusory and was about to disappear into the core of the universe. Leave. The woman's scream echoed throughout the Black Sea, like the sound of the universe being torn apart. Immediately, dense black silk threads emerged from the sea water, spreading towards Levi, and in an instant wrapped Levi into a black ball of wool. It was a tangled mess that could not be cut or sorted out. Every thread was a rule. 3,000 rules intertwined, capable of trapping everything. But not Levi, because he had a bug. In terms of absolute power, he could not be a match for the entire universe. With his limited life, the knowledge and truth he mastered could not compare to the long years of accumulation of the Lord of the Universe. However, he imitated Sauron, and drew out the red dragon iron slashing sword, and the star slashing sword. The power of destruction, and the power of 3,000 worlds burst out at the same time, cutting off the key threads one by one. Taking this opportunity, he quickly dissipated without a trace. The Black Sea was silent. There was only silence. The Mother of Darkness slowly dissipated. It knew it could not keep Levi. It did this on purpose to make Levi afraid of it, and leave the core of the universe as soon as possible. Otherwise, after a long time, Levi might find that it was just strong on the outside, but weak on the inside. By then, he might steal its position as the Lord of the Universe. Little did it know that Levi did not want to be the master of the universe at all. He just wanted to end the war as soon as possible, and take his wife to travel the multiverse after completing his mission. He was tired. Red Emperor Heaven, the Fire Dragon Knight, who was in seclusion, felt the vibration of this dimensional space and opened his eyes. The scene before him was something he would never forget. However, 5-dimensional spaces of different colors appeared from the darkness. They were connected to Chi-Di-Tien and finally formed a hexagonal world. He saw the equally shocked face of the Dark Moon Knight in the invisible sky. He saw the surprised Elena in the immortal sky. One by one, the Star Knights soared into the sky. Captain, the leader is back. High in the sky, a swordsman in black armor appeared. It was none other than Levi, who had disappeared for 500 years. Elena came up and hugged Levi tightly. Levi patted Elena's back gently. "Are you okay? Did you succeed?" Elena asked worriedly. Levi smiled and said, "I am fine. I just came here to report that I am safe. I have something else to do, so I cannot accompany you and everyone for now. You guys should prepare to celebrate the end of the war and welcome the arrival of a new world." When everyone saw the confident leader, they knew that the final battle that was coming was a sure thing. Muti laughed out loud. Congratulations to the team leader for his supreme success. This 6-day integration is also the work of the team leader, right? Levi replied. Yes. From now on, there will no longer be any barriers between the 6 dimensions. As long as you have perseverance, talent, determination, and luck, you can give it a try. This meant that it was not just Levi. Other knights could also evolve by fusing strength and defense bloodlines. In this way, the knight's overall strength and bloodline type could be improved again. The Fire Dragon Knight said. That is great. Elena said. Go ahead, we will talk later. Levi kissed her forehead gently, then flew up. Ancient Dragon Continent. Quack, quack. A big blue bird fell from the sky. Behind the crow, the chirping divine birds looked at the new world curiously. It returned to the ancient Banyan wonderland and landed on Mana's head, like a kitten coming back to beg for food. Mana smiled and said, "You guys, you are just waiting for Levi to get promoted before you come back, right?" Aya felt strong. Quack. Shortly after, through the intelligence clues provided by Aya, the demon slayer successfully found the Wind Lord who was roaming around and committing crimes. Gandalf personally led the team to capture him. The Holy Ape Knight, the Golden Lion Knight, the Purgatory Sword, Link, and other level 10 strong men participated in the operation throughout the whole process. Following the clues, Eternal Sleep was also captured. So far, all the major demonic masters were brought to justice. Sea Dragon Family. As a relatively recent legendary bloodline family, it had shallow roots, but the family was famous for having given birth to a remarkable Abyss Dragon Knight 500 years ago. This man, at such a young age, had mastered both the wizarding and cavalry skills, and became a 6th-level expert. He even promoted the family's Sea Dragon bloodline to the mythical realm. But the Abyss Dragon Knight's ambitions were not limited to mythology. His goal was to open up the highest. This made the patriarch of the Heilong family very happy. He finally understood the joy of winning without any effort. On this day, the Abyss Dragon Knight, went to the continent of Sauron. Inside Beiming City, Lucy smiled and said, "Levi is back, you can rest assured." The Abyss Dragon Knight smiled with relief. "It is good to be back." The Supreme Council, the level 10 warriors were eagerly waiting, until they saw the figure in pure white wizard robe reappear in the Tower of Babel. The excited faces of the Nora people were reflected in Levi's eyes. He simply said, "I am back. There is no need to worry. The war will soon be completely over." Countless people burst into thunderous applause. There were also rumors from the outside world during Levi's retreat. It said that the Chaos Emperor failed in his ascension to supremacy, and was completely lost. Now, with the Emperor's triumphant return, all rumors would be refuted. Amid the cheers of the crowd, Levi's figure rose taller. He was like a giant who created the world. His true height was more than tens of thousands of miles. The stars around him became embellishments. He took a step forward and arrived at the depths of the star abyss in an instant. Except for the Nether Mother River that restrained the will of the abyss, everyone was in a bad state, and was at risk of getting lost at any time. But their mission was also to be accomplished. Levi said confidently, "All of you step back and plunder the formation. From now on, this is my battlefield." Chapter 3216. After fighting for so long, everyone was exhausted. Had the war not been won, they likely would have fallen asleep right there. They retreated in perfect harmony, without any doubt or distrust toward Levi. The equally exhausted Mother Nest will took the opportunity to slip away. It felt the uniqueness of the enemy in front of it. It was a sense of danger that even the peak star ancestors did not possess. Where there is life, there is hope. It needed to go back, recover, and then return. A wormhole vortex with a radius of tens of millions of miles condensed in an instant, and the huge body of the Mother Nest drilled into it and disappeared. There were no supreme obstacles in its path. It returned to the Thea universe smoothly. Even the star ancestor did not dare to chase it. Here, foreign supreme power would be infinitely weakened. The wormhole vortex slowly dissipated, and the hive mind breathed a sigh of relief. It felt safe, until a teasing voice was heard. "So, this is your lair?" The Thea universe, which was several times smaller than the Dark universe, began to tremble violently. An indescribable, pure white giant claw stretched out from a distant land. It extended into the Thea universe unhindered, tearing a crack in space, and revealing countless insect nests. This was the Thea universe. It was like a giant termite nest. Countless Zergs were stationed here to guard their home. Under the control of the Mother Nest's will, billions of Zergs gathered around it, turning into a high wall. The giant claw instantly killed countless Zergs and destroyed the high walls. It grabbed the will of the Mother Nest. Because the speed of time in different universes varied, the giant claw appeared to be born and die at least tens of thousands of times in a single breath. The light and dark were uncertain. This showed that the owner of the giant claw was using supreme power to fight against the rules of the alien universe. If it were in its heyday, the will of the Mother Nest might have resisted. It was a pity that it had reached the end of its rope. The giant claw grabbed it without any suspense. The aftermath of the collision between the two existences shattered the dense insect nests within a radius of 100 million miles, and countless Zergs perished. The will of the Mother Nest had always been as ruthless as a machine. At that moment, it instinctively felt fear. The other party could exert such power across the universe. If it went to the Dark universe, it would have no chance of winning at all. "Come back here." An indifferent voice came across time and space. Veins bulged on the giant claws, transforming into tens of millions of dragons representing the 7 dimensions. They all roared in unison. The will of the hive could no longer resist. Its body was dragged uncontrollably by the giant claws. When it opened its eyes, it was back on the familiar star battlefield. It saw a white dragon circling the sky. Its long beard floated like a nebula, its dragon pupils hung like 2 suns high in the sky, and its dragon scales shone like a sky full of stars. It was that dragon claw that had pulled it from the Thea universe. All the supreme beings on the battlefield showed expressions of disbelief. The Abyss will, trapped by the Mother River of the Netherworld, was even more desperate. It struggled to escape. Acquiring the highest power across the universe was as easy as taking something out of a bag. This was the legendary Transcendental One. It was the Supreme Realm. It was a realm that only existed in legends and theories, and had not been proven. The universe was the foundation for the development of all things. How was it possible to transcend the universe? As strong as the star ancestor was, it never achieved transcendence in the end. The person in front of them was at the 10th level 500 years ago. 500 years later, he had actually skipped the supreme level and descended in an incredible and supreme manner. This was beyond the highest common sense and imagination. Even his ally, the underworld ancestor, had not expected this. She looked shocked, and the reaction was clearly genuine. The supreme power of chaos and the supreme power of the flesh. Is this the supreme power? Kaz muttered. The supreme realm. This is the realm of my dreams. Great. I know what path to take in the future. This is great. He laughed as if no one were around. Kaz also had some guesses and ideas about the supreme realm. However, due to the times and various factors, he had not had the opportunity to put them into practice. Now that the matter was settled, he could go and try it. He, Kaz, could not be weaker than others. Hela was also sincerely happy for Levi. It is finally over. Father, your work is about to be completed. There was no need to speak for Amon. As the former captain of Nora, he had witnessed the whole process of Levi's rise from obscurity, step by step to the center of the stage, and then leading civilization over the past 6,000 years. It could be said that no one knew Levi better than he did. In fact, in this war, he had been ready to get completely lost. Once lost, he might have turned into Nora's son and become a miraculous, dead object. He would have become like the ruthless rules themselves. The backup plan he had left behind, the Black Sun, would have been activated at that time. He would have walked the world as the Black Sun, giving up his current status and supreme strength to start over again. Of course, because of everyone's joint efforts, things did not get that bad. This was a blessing in disguise. Levi had said that he wanted Nora to not only win, but to win beautifully, so that more people could see the new world. Now, it seemed he had done it. As an angel investor for Nora and Levi, the Netherworld Mother River was feeling thankful, but she was also somewhat nervous. With Levi's current strength, the underworld was nothing. She was not sure whether Levi could stick to his original intention and keep his promise after mastering the power to sweep away everything. There are no eternal friends in the relationship between civilizations, only eternal interests. In short, as Levi was promoted to the Supreme Realm, everything would be settled. In terms of absolute strength, the Supreme Realm was not much higher than the Supreme Peak, and there was no natural chasm between them. However, he was no longer suppressed by the universe and was unrestrained. With the same strength, the combat power that Levi could exert was far higher than that of the Star Ancestor. The reason why he could capture people across the universe was twofold. On one hand, it was because of the legendary spell, Hand of the Universe. After his promotion, this spell transformed into Hand of the Supreme and possessed incredible power. On the other hand, the Thea universe was very small, with only one Supreme. It was much worse than the Dark Universe, so it was not difficult for Levi to fight against the rules of the Thea universe. If he were asked to go to a place that was not inferior to the Dark Universe to capture people, he would not be able to do it. The will of the Mother Nest fought back vigorously. As it burned and sublimated, the Supreme Offensive became more and more fierce. But it was all in vain. Levi's infinite land transformed into the armor of the universe after his promotion. It seemed that he was next to the Mother Nest, but in fact, there was an endless universe between them. Not only that, but behind him, a dark curtain appeared, dotted with thousands of white dots of light. Above the dots of light, there was a white palace that stood above everything else. This was his former legendary demiplane, multiverse. Now, it had also transformed into the Supreme Jade Capital. It was exactly what was called the White Jade Capital in heaven. Yujing was the place where Levi was a true immortal in his previous life. The Supreme Jade Capital was the residence of those who transcend the multiverse. It was opened up by the original dragon, and was high above all universes, like an immortal in heaven overlooking the mortal world. If there were more transcendental beings like Levi in the future, then he would be qualified to set foot there. Apart from this, only those who had reached the highest realm could barely feel the existence of the Supreme Jade Capital. Others, even those at level 10, would find it difficult to detect it. A chaotic white light shot out from the Supreme Jade Capital. It passed through the void that gave birth to the universe like a railgun, and finally pierced into the dark universe. Under the suppression of the rules of the universe, the power of this white light was weakened by at least 2/3. When it fell into the eyes of the Mother Nest's will, it was an incomparable sword energy, more vast and brilliant than the Milky Way. It tore the depths of the star realm into two halves, and also split the body of the Mother Nest's will into two. The supreme power of the Mother Nest's will could not stop leaking out. Inside its body, there was a diamond-shaped crystal covered with holes, like a honeycomb, and then it cracked. The Mother Nest mind was horrified. It had fought with so many Supremes for so long, but none of the injuries it had sustained were as serious as this one. This was the Supreme Realm. Levi drew his red dragon iron slashing sword and star slashing sword at the same time. The two swords slashed down, and cross-shaped sword energy bombarded the Mother Nest will, which had no power to resist. The hive mind tried every means to escape, but to no avail. The diamond crystals in its body vibrated and hummed, then exploded. Its self-detonation caused a wormhole vortex to emerge, and streams of light tried to penetrate it, but most of them were blocked by dragon claws. Only a small part disappeared. Everyone looked anxious, but Levi looked calm. The true spirit of the Mother Nest's will was burning fiercely. Extreme resentment distorted time and space. The original dragon exhaled lightly and blew it away. Levi's vague and ruthless voice said, "The Mother Nest will is not dead. It took advantage of its self-detonation to throw some of its original relics into many multiverses, presumably in an attempt to leave seeds for its comeback. Our war with the Zerg is not over yet. Whether it is the underworld or the Nora tribe, we must always remember that the Zerg is an extremely terrifying enemy of life and death. At all times, the elimination of the Zerg must be the top priority. Once the traces of the Zerg are found, report it to the Nora Council immediately, and send a war group to kill it. Please remember that Nora can only survive if it is united. Only then can we fight against the Zerg. Only then can we face the unknown terrifying forces of the multiverse." A warning from the Chaos Emperor was deeply imprinted in everyone's heart. Everyone looked solemn. Everyone had seen how powerful the Emperor was, but he did not have the ability to completely wipe out the Zerg. The enemy's strength was like a dark cloud that lingered for a long time. The wormhole vortex slowly dissipated. Levi said to himself, "Nora cannot be too comfortable. It needs a powerful imaginary enemy that could come at any time. The Zerg is very suitable. I hope that this can help all races unite for a longer period of time." Actually, the hive mind was dead. Those primordial relics that had been scattered throughout the multiverse might indeed give birth to new life in the distant future, but they would no longer be the will of the mother nest. The core of the mother nest's will had been shattered by Levi. Of course, the Zerg in the Thea universe did not dissipate with the fall of the mother nest will. According to Levi's observation, before the mother nest will came to conquer the dark universe, it must have left some backup plans in its old nest. Once it fell, the backup plans were automatically activated. So, when Levi asked everyone to be on guard at all times and be prepared to deal with the Zerg, it was not a lie. It was indeed necessary. No matter what, the Zerg crisis was temporarily resolved. Now there was only one last great enemy left. But before Levi could make a move, the Abyss will, knowing that it had no hope of escaping, also imitated the mother nest will and exploded and disintegrated. Like the star ancestor, this kind of existence could not accept the fact of being defeated. The Chaos City was scattered into countless fragments of relics, like falling stars. One day, the Abyss will come again. The shrill voice of the will of the Abyss echoed in the universe. Levi seemed to be thinking about something. Old creatures like these must have some backup plans in the universe. It was impossible for them to die so easily, including the star ancestor. Levi thought that they were not all dead. But it did not matter anymore. The Abyss and the star realm had been shattered. Even if these two were resurrected, they would not pose much danger to Nora. Levi believed that the wisdom of future generations could solve the remaining problems. There is no perfect ending in this world. Levi's mission was only to complete the framework of Nora's unification. He did not want to worry about how to govern and maintain the country after he established it. That was all. This supreme war finally came to an end. As the will of the Abyss died, a cracking sound came from Levi's body, and a blood-red armor emerged. It began to shatter and turned into billions of blood-red true spirits that poured into the body of the netherworld mother river in the sky. These demon spirits, enslaved by the armor, all turned into nutrients for the underworld. This could be considered Sauron's gift to the netherworld mother river. The mother river's momentum continued to rise and finally reached the peak of level 11, even surpassing the star ancestor in the state of complete victory. It floated around the white dragon. Faintly, a cold and silent female voice poured into Levi's mind. "Thank you very much." Levi was slightly startled. It was the first time he had heard the voice of the mother river of the underworld. "You are welcome," he responded. Chapter 3217. The vast, dark yellow river water suddenly vanished into nothingness. The mother river of the netherworld returned to the long-lost underworld. The underworld ancestor looked at him with a grateful expression. "Thank you, Chaos Emperor. From now on, according to the agreement made by Sauron in the past, the cycle of death will still be controlled by the underworld, and the multiverse will be governed by Nora. Does the Emperor agree?" Levi said. According to the agreement made by Sauron, the underworld ancestor nodded and smiled. "Goodbye." She returned to the underworld ancestor temple. She opened the book titled The Quotes of Sauron. "Goodbye, madam. When you miss me, you can come back to Nora. Love you, Sauron." The Lord of the Underworld put down the book. Her eyes were slightly red, and she wept silently. "Goodbye." Somewhere in the darkness, the succubus queen felt her father's aura disappear. There was an expression of relief on her face. "That is great. My father is finally dead." She did not feel the slightest bit of sadness about the departure of the will of the Abyss. She showed a look of surprise. In her mind, the portrait of the young and handsome Sauron shone brightly again. "Go find Levi. He will take you away and show you endless wonders. Being a servant of a supreme being is also a good ending." "Sauron." The succubus's expression changed slightly, and she asked unwillingly. "And you? Where have you been? Are you really dead? I do not believe it. Sauron, you cannot lie to me." The portrait began to disintegrate, finally turning into an ancient slab of broken stone. Suddenly, she heard the voice of a young man that was easygoing and calm. "I did not lie to you. Sauron, keep your word." On the Pandora continent, a canopy of giant blue trees covered the sky. Mistress Pandora, who had already become a top powerhouse, looked at the soldiers, who returned triumphantly from the multiverse and the Star Abyss battlefield with satisfaction. She thought of that figure in her mind. A new world without gods and demons. "I am really looking forward to it." Mistress Pandora had a more open-minded view of Sauron. When she was guarding the core of Nora, she knew Sauron's final outcome. She admired Sauron's courage and had a deeper understanding of this man. In the days ahead, she would only look forward. Shortly after, an expeditionary force set out from Nora and headed towards the depths of the universe. Their mission was to transplant all the seedlings of the sacred trees marked by the Emperor on the star map to the continent of Pandora. It was said that this was the incarnation of the Golden Will. If it was not cleaned up, it might become Nora's enemy in the future. Mistress Pandora knew that this was actually the gift that man left for himself. At the core of the universe, two more pillars collapsed. The Mother of Darkness looked at all this without any sadness or joy. Except for the most obedient Mother River of the Underworld, the other three supreme wills all fell. This was a good thing. In this universe, there were only 7 supreme beings left. Amon, the Fire King, Hela, the Underworld, the Nether River, Kaz, and the Time Dragon. This could be considered a relief. The only flaw was the birth of a supreme being, Levi. However, judging from Levi's current performance, he did not seem to be interested in the position of the Lord of the Universe. This was a blessing in disguise. Anyway, this was the ending. The Mother of Darkness was quite satisfied. In the 6,000th year of the Nora calendar, the Tower of Babel stood tall. The figure of the Chaos Emperor stood here. He looked at the devastated post-war world and said apologetically, "It is a pity that the Supreme Council and I cannot successfully let everyone see the arrival of the new world. Over 6,000 years, hundreds of millions of compatriots have died in this great cause. From unknown ordinary people to legendary wizards who are as powerful as gods, regardless of race and profession, anyone who sacrificed for the rise of Nora should not be forgotten. So we have to forge a monument. This is to commemorate all heroes. They are the bright stars in the sky of civilization, shining forever. They should be with us to witness the arrival of the new world. Nora, never die." In the 6,000th year of the Nora calendar, the pan-multiverse Nora Civilization Republic Parliament was established, referred to as the Pan-Universe Nora Parliament. The Supreme Parliament was the highest authority. The Chaos Emperor was the first head of state, also known as the Speaker of the Universe. Parliament promulgated the Magna Carta of Nora, a fundamental legal document. The purpose of the Magna Carta was to protect the Nora civilization in the dark multiverse. All races had to unite around the Chaos Emperor and the Supreme Council and face the outside world in unison. Nora had to resolutely eliminate the Zerg and any remnants of gods and demons who attempted to restore the old order. She had to be brave in exploration and encourage the great voyages of space and the exploration of extraterrestrial civilizations. So far, the astral plane and the abyss became a thing of the past. As for the Zerg, it would become the common enemy of Nora. For 10,000 years, 100,000 years, 1,000,000 years, the descendants of Nora would work hard to fight against the Zerg and become stronger. The Zerg were just a symbol. Time flew by. After the war, the newly born Nora civilization began to rebuild their homes. This day, Levi used his great magical powers to capture a complete piece of star fragment, which was tens of millions of miles long and millions of miles wide. He invited Master Beilong, Master Tiangong, and other skilled craftsmen. The Fire Lord came uninvited as well, laughing. "I am also good at forging. I will not pretend anymore." The Chaos Tower was forged by Sauron and me together. Levi smiled and said, "Well, there is strength in numbers." Everyone gasped in amazement. Who would have thought that the Fire King was so multi-talented? After 1,000 years of forging, a monument-shaped cosmic treasure tens of millions of miles high was forged. It radiated brilliant starlight, and one could also feel the power of faith, because it contained half of a supreme will-level relic, the godhead of belief. The other half, naturally, was given to the mother river of the netherworld. Of course, before forging, Levi had used his supreme power to erase any possible remnants of the star ancestors while within the godhead. With the lessons learned from the star realm, he would not leave any hidden dangers. The godhead of belief was the core. The star monument could gather the spontaneous power of people's faith in heroes, and through the accumulation of years, form corresponding star spirits. Star spirits did not have true spirits and self-awareness, but only corresponding qualities, similar to a simplified version of star beasts. Tenacity, bravery, chivalry, dedication. Anything that met the qualities of a hero could become a character. When civilization encountered a crisis, the Protoss would automatically emerge from the Monument of the Stars to protect Nora, and all the Protoss would be managed by the Nora Council through the monument. Ultimately, the Chaos Emperor controlled everything from behind the scenes. This was the Monument to the Stars. Levi turned into a giant, holding the Monument of Stars in his hand, and placed it in the center of the land of Nora, crossing the continent of Sauron, reaching the ruins of the Star Abyss, and down to the underworld. Through the monument, all the Nora tribesmen who were confident in their own strength could go to the Xingyuan ruins to explore, and hunt for treasures, and hunt down the remnants of gods and demons remaining in the Xingyuan land. Of course, the underworld was definitely not an option unless one had a Pluto-level connection. Levi stood at the top of the monument. He said, "Give me the list of heroes." Everyone was shocked. "Emperor, the number of people on the list is in the tens of thousands." "We can do it," Levi said firmly. "Let me do it." He took the list and the red dragon slashing iron appeared. He used his sword as a pen and his breath as ink. When the sword was wielded, the writing was as vigorous and powerful as a dragon. The victims on the list included those who were of low power, but sacrificed themselves to achieve great things, and those who were powerful, but gave up wealth and glory just to be remembered. There were familiar people like Laplace, but most of them were names Levi had never heard of. Thousands of years passed by. One by one, the names appeared on the Monument of Stars. During this period, all the people of Nora came to the monument to observe the Emperor's inscriptions. People came and went, bustling about. They were heavy-hearted and excited, and their eyes were filled with sincere tears. Because among these people, there were their teachers, friends, parents, lovers. Every name was a story. Such stories were like the sands of the Ganges in the 6,000 years of civilization, ordinary, but not mediocre, small but great. The higher one went on the monument, the more weight the name carried. The deep blue sage, Luther. The dragon flame god shaman, Rego. The mountain giant king, Raphael. The lord of the black abyss, Aaron. Vecna, the forefather of the dark side. When she carved Vecna, the Shadow Queen was already sobbing. Link, the sky magic swordsman who had just been promoted to legend, was beside her to comfort her. These two legends came together. Levi paused for a moment. The equally legendary Black Pearl boy, Garcia, silently recited that name in his heart. Among the deceased, only one person was more important than Vecna. Levi wrote in a flamboyant manner. Sauron, the forefather of wizards. Yes, Was there anyone more important than Sauron in the battle so far? No. Sauron was the chief designer. He fought against the sky and against people. In the end, he died a martyr, and with his death, he brought about the great chess game of the times 300,000 years later, allowing Nora to usher in an unimaginable golden age. Not just wizards, even all the races admired him. After carving Sauron's name, Levi took a deep breath. He was on top of the monument of stars, overlooking Nora. Finally, the last words were engraved on it. For 1500 years, the Nora heroes who died in the War of Heaven will be immortal. 5,787 years. The heroes of Nora who died in the blood battle of the Abyss and the Nightmare War will be immortalized. This dated back to ancient times. Since then, in order to oppose the hegemony of the Star World, the bloody war of demons, the invasion of nightmares, and other great disasters of life, the heroes who sacrificed in various struggles will be immortal. Looking at the inscription on the monument, the strong men of Nora, who survived the catastrophe sighed. It was not just Nora who had heroes. The origin tree, the twin dragons, the ancestor of the frost giants, the ultimate creation. These were the heroes who defeated the gods and appeared in the chronicles of the multidimensional world compiled by the Emperor. They were also immortal. It was their repeated relays that broke the shackles of the Star Realm, allowing the later civilizations of Sauron and Nora to stand on the shoulders of giants and move forward. So, facing the dangerous and unpredictable multiverse, Nora just needed to unite. Prevent the great cause that had taken thousands of years to build from being destroyed by civil war. This was the 7,000th year of the Nora calendar. The star monument was built, and the Emperor said loudly under the monument, "No matter what the future direction of civilization is, I hope that our generation, our children, and our grandchildren will always remember these names." It is not easy to overthrow the three mountains. The monument of stars shone brightly, reaching into the sky. Each name turned into an illusory star, hanging high in the sky of Nora, absorbing the power of faith of all living beings and heroes. Nora could have faith. Only it had to be pure and noble. It was like the truth, untouchable and needed to be kept in mind at all times. Those who forgot history and believers would not have a good end. Thousands of years after carving the words, Levi returned to the ancient Banyan wonderland. Elena had already packed her bags, and she looked expectantly at him. "Are we ready to leave?" Levi said. "Well, wait till I am done with this." In the year 8000 of the Nora calendar, he spent 1,000 years using the remains of Chaos City and the Pantheon to rebuild his wizard tower, transforming it into a treasure close to the supreme level, forever in Sinuan. It rose high, broke through the sea of ruins, and descended into the ruins of Sinuan. The 12-story tower was even more majestic than the dark ancient tower. Levi called Gandalf and Victor. "You will guard here and help each other. With this tower, you can achieve the highest level without worrying about getting lost. If it is not a civilization crisis, you do not need to take action, just meditate." Gandalf and Victor nodded. Finkel continued to guard the Nightmare Land and command the Nightmare Council. As for the Heavenly Craftsman, Ace, originally Levi wanted him to be the head of Parliament. But he thought about it. Ace had worked diligently all his life, and now good days had finally come. We would not bother him anymore, so let him continue to be a worry-free instrument maker. So Levi found Aemon, who had just slept for 1,000 years. He smiled helplessly. "So, I still have to be the head of state," Levi said. "No one is better than you." Aemon had no choice but to accept it. "Okay, I will continue to hold on until everyone chooses someone more suitable than me. I feel that Haim is quite suitable, both in terms of personality and ability." Levi laughed. "That is your business, not my business." He found Triss again. After obtaining countless resources from the astral realm and the abyss, this god of medicine developed countless epic-making potions, which almost advanced Nora's pharmacy by a generation. She was known as the mother of all medicines. Triss had just finished her bath, looking just like when they first met. She looked at Levi and was silent for a long time. Her heart seemed to be recalling the more than 8,000 years that they had known each other. Finally, she smiled and said, "Have a nice trip. You are not going to never come back, are you? A wanderer always has to return home. Although this is not your first hometown, I believe that the people here are equally important to you." Levi said, "This is my first home. I will come back often. Traveling gets boring sometimes, does it not?" Triss heaved a sigh of relief and smiled. "It is such that." Levi went to find the Frost Witch again. She finally defeated the will of the Frost Giants. Although her cultivation level had declined, she was still young, and this feeling of freedom was so wonderful. The ice and snow goddess disintegrated on her own. The ancestor of the Frost Giants kept his word. Levi met the Lord of the North Sea. The girl with blue hair had been waiting for a long time. Lucy said regretfully, "It is a pity that you left before the new world was fully built." Levi said, "I feel that the eve of the birth of a new world is actually the most beautiful. Civilization will always decay and become obsolete one day, so it is the same to hide this beauty in your heart." Lucy said, "Yeah, no matter what. Our time has arrived." Levi met Mistress Rowling, the Will of Heaven, Herman, and everyone who had helped him over the past thousands of years, including their reincarnations. Of course, there was also Levi's most important partner, every dragon in the ancient Banyan fairyland. Without their blood essence, how could Levi be where he was today? He said goodbye to the infernal sword, and the two brothers drank and talked happily. Finally, he came to the Temple of Dusk. All 18 Star Knights had complicated and reluctant expressions on their faces. The Blood Knight asked, "Captain, we all have biographies, why do you not keep one? Levi looked up at the sky and said confidently, I believe that millions of years from now, there will still be people in this universe who remember me. I think that is enough. The Black Knight said, please inform us when you are leaving, so that the brothers and sisters can see you off. The Holy Ape Knight hugged Levi and said with tears streaming down his face, I really cannot bear to part with it, damn. Seeing this, the other knights also came up to hug him. Levi said, when Nora realizes the technology of multiverse travel, we will meet again one day in the vast ocean of the universe. I am just one step ahead. Farewell to the 18 riders. Farewell to the Tower of Dawn. Farewell to Behemoth Park. Farewell to the ancient dragon empire. Farewell to every inch of land in the ancient dragon continent. Before leaving, two figures quietly appeared beside Levi. It was the succubus queen and the black-haired young man, Suin. The queen said, it was Sauron who asked me to find you. Levi nodded. I know, follow me. But I have a promise. Do not do anything out of line, and do not run around. Otherwise, I might abandon you in another universe. The succubus queen said, I will not. I am very obedient. Ask Sauron. As for Suin, naturally, he wanted to leave this universe. As a foreign aide, he had indeed helped Nora's career a lot along the way. It was only natural for Levi to take him away and help him find a new home. Elena gave the three siblings some instructions. She also came to Levi. After much thought, she decided to let the three siblings continue their training in Nora. There was a lot of potential in this brand new world. Levi said, wait a moment, there is still one person who has not said goodbye yet. In a flash, he arrived at the core of Nora. Nora willed herself to remain silent. Levi was calm inside, feeling Nora's pulse. He whispered, I am done with my work here, so I am leaving. If you are interested, I will look for our old home and see if I can take a tour and take a look for you. After that, I will continue traveling. The multiverse is full of infinite wonders. Goodbye, Sauron. The end. Thank you so much for listening.